Chapter 168. Within his Dantian Chi Sea. In the misty space, a fiery red mist pervaded the air. This was Dongbua Shui Ying's transcendent Do Qi. This Do Qi had consumed more than 250 kilograms of origin stones over the years. Furthermore, it had been nourished by the laws of profound mysteries and had long reached its limit. Following a thought from Shui Ying, Qi, the countless fiery red Do Qi immediately underwent a qualitative change. Within the fiery red mist, traces of lightning-like flowing lights appeared, as if they were strands of silk. Like dancing silk threads, like snakes of lightning. All of the fiery red mist was rapidly transforming into this even more condensed and denser energy. Every single thread was formed from the condensation of a large amount of mist from before. Very quickly, the Do Qi was completely transformed. Countless fiery threads of Do Qi intertwined and transformed into a crystal ball, following which it transformed into a miniature version of Dongbua Shuiying, following which it transformed into a miniature mystical dragon. Every single one of them was lifelike and had vivid expressions. Only the surface of their skin would occasionally glow. After stepping into the saint realm, the transcendent Do Qi is indeed different. Dongbua Shuiying sighed inwardly. It can condense and transform into a Do Qi avatar. First, nourish my body and soul. Dongbua Shuiying did not think too much about it. He calmed his heart. The lightning-like transcendent Do Qi began to seep into his bones, muscles, and skin, then into his internal organs, and finally into his brain to nourish his soul. Nourishing the soul was the slowest. After stepping into the saint realm, most transcendents will be able to form Do Qi avatar. But to form a Do Qi avatar, one would need to divide their soul. Most transcendents would not be in a rush and would take their time to nourish their soul. But Dongbua Shuiying wanted to do it all in one go, because after leaving the Xia capital, he would have to travel to many places. Thus, he wanted to leave his Do Qi avatar in Snorra Castle. To protect his clan, during the Demon War, he did not dare to neglect his clan. If something went wrong, it would be too late for regrets. More than half a kilogram of origin stones were used one after another. After using another 19 pieces, Dongbua Shuiying finally felt that the growth of his soul was starting to stagnate. The nourishment of his saint-tier, transcendent Do Qi was no longer effective. Phew! Dongbua Shuiying opened his eyes. Saint-tier transcendence? Dongbua Shuiying grinned as he looked to his side. Whoosh! A fiery red stream of light flew out from Dongbua Shuiying's body, flew to the side, and quickly condensed into a young man in a red robe and black hair. It looked exactly the same as Dongbua Shuiying, except that its face, skin, and hair were glowing faintly. With a single look, one could tell that it was not a real body of flesh and blood. It was just a body condensed from battle qi. The feeling of having one's soul split is really unpleasant. Dongbua Shuiying muttered softly. Fortunately, it's just a small portion of my soul. It has no effect on my strength. He was not a sorcerer, and sorcerers relied on their mental energy to fight. Thus, splitting one soul would have an obvious effect on a sorcerer's strength. However, knights relied on battle qi, weapons, secret arts, cultivation levels, and so on. Splitting a small portion of one's soul wouldn't have much of an effect. My battle qi clone must not be destroyed. Dongbua Shuiying looked at the battle qi clone in front of him. Once it is destroyed, the portion of soul contained within it will be destroyed as well. I'll have to recuperate properly. Dongbua Shuiying thought to himself. It was recorded in the books that soul splitting, the two could still sense each other. However, if the portion of soul contained within the battle qi clone was destroyed, it would be a form of damage to the source of the soul. Although it would only be a small portion, it would still be a loss to the source of the soul. For example, sorcerers expended their mental energy and soul energy in battle. That was the most external source of energy. It wasn't the source of the soul. Thus, even if it was used up, it could recover quickly. However, if the source of the soul was damaged, even if it was just a small portion, it would still have to recuperate slowly. If the injury was too serious, it might even turn into a lunatic. If they were too heavily injured, they might die on the spot. Therefore, even if a demigod used a battle aura clone to explore a dangerous place, once they lost their battle aura clone, they would first have to slowly recuperate. Only after they had recuperated would they use the battle aura clone again. Normally, they wouldn't dare to use chi doppelgangers twice in a row. These were all common sense. My origin stones are being used up so quickly. Donghua Shuang looked at the remaining small dawn stone in his hand and said, advancing from the initial stage to the peak stage of Saint Tier requires more than 1,500 dawn stones. As for becoming a demigod, fortunately, we don't have to worry about it for now. If I want to reach the early stage of the Sage Tier, I'll need 25,000 kilograms of dawn stones. This needs to be prepared, Donghua Shuang thought. It was extremely difficult to improve the primordial bloodline body, and the price was also extremely high. Previously, Donghua Shuang did not dare to think about it. However, after winning the 100 Battles Chamber, he no longer hesitated and decided to absorb the energy of the Dawn Stones without restraint, allowing his body to break through to the early stage of the Saint Realm. This way, his body would be closer to the undying body, and the chances of his primordial bloodline awakening for the second time would be greater. Spring 9663, early morning. A large number of people entered the gate of the world on the towering mountain outside the Xia capital. Brother Donghua. Congratulations, Brother Donghua, for becoming a saint at such a young age. It's really enviable. In midair, a large group of transcendents brought their families and flew in midair, waiting to enter the gate of the world. While waiting, they greeted each other. The news of Donghua Shuang becoming a saint had already spread in the past half a month. This caused many transcendents in the Xia capital to be incomparably shocked. This Donghua Shuang was too young. He had only been a transcendent for 20 years, yet he had already become a saint. There was really no way to compare. How could those old fellows who had been stuck at the Sky Realm for hundreds of years endure this? From now on, those from the Water Taoist faction can enter. Beside the gate of the world, the Infernal Palace's Palace Lord Chun personally presided over it. Today, all the legend-ranked knights, mages, transcendents below the demigod rank, and their families would all be sent out. This was a huge matter, and they must not be destroyed by the demons. Hua hua hua. A large number of legend rankers from the Water Taoist faction began to enter. Everyone, I'll be leaving first. If there's a chance, you can come to Azure River County to look for me. Donghua Shuang bade farewell to some of his friends. Some of these friends had fought alongside him when he went on missions. There are also some of his fellow disciples from Scarlet Cloud Mountain. Jing Xiu, let's go. Donghua Shuang and Jing Xiu brought their families and flew towards the gate of the world. A large number of people entered the gate of the world. Donghua Shuang and Jing Xiu brought their families and flew into the gate of the world. So lively. In the northernmost part of the Dragon Mountain Empire, the originally quiet Water Taoist faction was bustling with activity this morning. A large number of legend rankers and transcendents had arrived. Everyone. A powerful voice resounded throughout the entire Taoist faction. Everyone raised their heads to look at the green-robed man who was emitting an oppressive aura. It was faction head Si Kongyang. From tomorrow onwards, transcendents and legend rankers will have to follow orders to hunt down demons. Faction head Si Kongyang said, "Today is your time to prepare. Now, you have 2 hours to prepare. You can go in exchange for some secret techniques. You can also go in exchange for weapons and treasures. After 2 hours, my Water Taoist faction will send you back. All right, go and prepare." Yes, the transcendents and legend rankers respectfully acknowledged the order. Some of the family members held their breaths, not daring to make sound. Si Kongyang's formless aura was too frightening. The family members stayed in the Taoist faction to rest, while the transcendents and legend rankers went to exchange for some necessities. In the future, when they were searching for demons, they would inevitably have to fight with demons. At this time, the contribution points would naturally be converted into their own strength. As for those who value their family, they would also exchange for powerful arrays to protect their family. Keep 50,000 contribution points and exchange the rest for weapons and arrays. Dongbua Shuiying had already made his decision. Take out 30,000 of these 50,000 contribution points and exchange them for origin stones. Senior Dragon, Senior Sparrow, I wish to exchange for a demigod equipment. Dongbua Shuiying's voice was isolated from the surroundings. On the surface, the weapon pavilion only had man-ranked and saint-ranked transcendent weapons. As for demigod equipment, it was hidden. Without becoming a saint-ranked transcendent, one did not have the qualifications to look at it. Kid, you're not bad. The last time I and the old dragon saw you, you were just a transcendent. How long has it been since then? And you're already a saint-ranked. You even have enough contribution points to exchange for a demigod equipment? The Water Daoist faction's equipment spirit, Senior Sparrow's clear voice rang in Dongbua Shuiying's ears. All right, I'll send you over now. Chapter 169. A surge of energy wrapped around Dongbua Shuiying, causing the space around him to distort. Dongbua Shuiying did not resist. With his extreme piercing, he could easily leave this place. The space around him changed. Previously, he was still on the grassland. Now, he was in a sealed palace. The palace was completely sealed, and there were many fire crystal lamps illuminating the place. Many powerful demigod treasures were placed in the palace, as well as some powerful mage equipment. There were even some unique treasures and powerful arrays. Elder Dongbua. There was already a saint-ranked transcendent in the palace. Elder Ning. Dongbua Shuiying also recognized him. This gray-robed man with a divine sword on his back was called Ning Nan. He was currently ranked 25th on the saint rankings. The two of them exchanged a simple greeting and went to search for the treasures they needed. Dongbua Shuiying walked around the palace as he observed. In the future, when he fought against demons, he would first need a protective robe. When his weapons were unable to block the attacks, this robe might be able to save his life. Next would be the spear. This one is not bad. Dongbua Shuiying looked at all the demigod robes and finally chose Waterfire Cloud Robe. A demigod mage who grasped the true intent of water and fire spent over 10 years to refine this robe. Using the ripple of the true intent of water and fire to construct a spell model, this robe was refined. Once the robe is activated, formless ripples will envelop the body, isolating it from all attacks. Only a peak stage, saint-ranked transcendent would be able to pierce through it. Even if they could pierce through it, they would be weakened by the ripples. Middle-grade demigod. It was worth 32,000 contribution points. This is it. Dongbua Shuiying picked it up and wore it. The material of the robe was extraordinary, and demigods would definitely not be able to destroy it. However, some powerful attacks could still penetrate the robe and affect the body. Furthermore, the attacks would usually be aimed at the face, throat, or other unprotected vital spots. At such times, the formless ripples would be needed to protect the body. True intent of water and fire ripples. Dongbua Shuiying activated it and felt it. Water, there were ripples. Fire, there were waves of fire. That demigod great wizard's true meaning of water and fire had reached an extremely high level, almost to the point of condensing a true deity heart. Furthermore, he was most proficient in the aspect of waves. That was why he was able to refine a semi-divine artifact based on it. A demigod weapon was not something that a demigod mage could create. Truly formidable. The two powers of water and fire are intertwined, and they reinforce and subdue each other. The ripples formed by the two are also layered upon each other, and they are profound and unfathomable. The moment Dongbua Shuiying activated it, he could feel a layer of dense ripples on the surface of his body. This ripple was extremely mysterious. He was considered to have done a lot of research in the aspect of fire and water, so it was easy for him to activate it. However, he still had a long way to go before he could fully understand it. No matter what kind of attack it is, it will be weakened by this fluctuation, and its power will be greatly reduced. It can even weaken the attack power of a Saint Peak level transcendent. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. Although there were better protective robes, defensive robes were expensive to begin with. Spending 32,000 contribution points on one was already extremely expensive. With this robe, he could just stand there and let them attack him. Anyone below the Saint Peak level would not be able to harm him at all. Even a Saint Peak level transcendent would barely be able to pierce through this layer of fluctuation, and by then, they would already be exhausted. The threat of those in the top 10 of the Saint rankings would also be reduced by half. This is the spear. Dongbo Shuiying very quickly chose a spear as well. When fighting against demons, a good weapon was naturally very important. Stellar Fire Cloud Spear. The spear tip was made from the deity world's stellar stones, and the spear shaft was made from flaming cloud iron. The material was extraordinary, and it was left behind by an alien who died. The spear weighs 13,000 jin, and there was nothing special about it other than its sharpness. Mid-grade demigod. It was worth 30,000 contribution points. What a waste. Dongbo Shuiying muttered to himself. Flaming cloud iron, deity world's stellar stones. The materials used are truly extravagant. If a powerful great mage were to refine this spear, he would at least be able to create more spell models. For example, to create illusions, to increase the spear's speed, to contain terrifying poison, etc. I never thought that there would be no spell models at all. That's right. This was a spear that did not have any runes on it. The only thing was that the material was amazing. Just the deity world's stellar stones alone were more expensive than some of the materials used to refine top-grade demigod-ranked deity weapons. Unfortunately, this was a demigod weapon that had already been refined. It was impossible to destroy it and take out the deity world's stellar stones. The spear tip made from the deity world's stellar stones was incomparably sharp. The only advantage it had was its sharpness. Because it was too sharp, it was classified as a mid-grade demigod rank weapon. Its price was also very high. One must know that offensive weapons were usually very cheap. The price of this spear was comparable to a defensive robe. Why value is this sharpness? Dongbo Shuiying revealed a smile. Extreme piercing, paired with an extremely sharp spear. How many people would be able to block this stab? Everything was exchanged. The Water Fire Cloud robe, the Stellar Fire Cloud spear, and the 3 powerful formations had cost him a total of 79,000 contribution points. Compared to his original plan, he had overspent by nearly 10,000 contribution points. After all, exchanging for treasures was not that accurate. Moreover, if he overspent, then so be it. He had to go and kill demons. Killing demons also had rewards, and he could still earn it back. Moreover, the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear was a must. It could greatly increase his strength. The Transcendents and Legend Rankers of the Water Taoist faction all went to exchange for the treasures they needed. At noon, everyone began to move. Get on the ship. A large flying ship landed at the entrance of the Water Taoist faction. The white-haired Bai stood on the battleship. He was in charge of sending the Transcendents and Legend Rankers back. He had grasped the true meaning of space cleavage. Now that he had become a demigod, he was very good at traveling. This is our itinerary. I will send the Transcendents back one by one. As for the Legend Rankers, you all just have to look carefully at the itinerary and decide where you will disembark. Bai said. The huge itinerary was placed beside the entrance of the battleship. 5 provinces, many locations. Everyone looked at it and decided where they would disembark. Senior brother Snow Eagle. Jing Qiu was shocked. You spent 17,000 contribution points to buy the array? Spending so much, even a demigod would need some time to break through the array. Anyone below the demigod level would not be able to break through it. Actually, there's no need for that. Spending 5,000 to 6,000 contribution points to buy an array is more than enough. Arrays are different from mage equipment. It was different. Mage equipment was miniaturized and could be carried around. Arrays were fixed in the nest, so there was no need for it to be moved. Furthermore, the range of the array could be very large. Hence, the difficulty was greatly reduced. An array that cost 17,000 contribution points was comparable to a mage equipment that cost hundreds of thousands of contribution points. For example, provinces and counties, there were some powerful arrays. A little more or a little less doesn't matter. All right, Jing Xiu, the plan to kill the demons has been arranged. Are you going to spend the first half of the year or the second half? Dongbua Shuiying asked. All the transcendents had to hunt down the demons, but they could not do it every single day. According to the plan, every transcendent had to spend half of their time every year. The Infernal Palace would have a unified allocation. Half of the transcendents would spend the first half of the year, while the other half would spend the second half. This way, they could take turns. During the half a year of rest, they could peacefully cultivate. I'm going to spend the first half. Jing Xiu smiled. Tomorrow, I'll be going to hunt down the demons. What about you? I'm also going to spend the first half. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. Looks like I will have to trouble you to help me set up the array today. These are all completed arrays. Once they are installed, it's very simple. Half an hour should be enough. Jing Xiu smiled and nodded. The two of them sat by the window and chatted. The sound was isolated, so no one came to disturb them. After all, there were only a few transcendents in the cabin. About an hour after leaving the Water Daoist faction. Next, Tranquil Sun Province, Azure River County, Water Rights Town. Chichio Bai's voice resounded in the cabin. Those who were preparing to disembark come out. Chichio Bai's gaze turned towards Dongbua Shuiying. Dongbua Shuiying and Jing Xiu both stood up. They walked onto the deck. Snow Eagle, you have to be careful in the future. Chichio Bai transmitted, don't be too stubborn. The most important thing is to grasp the true meaning as soon as possible. In Brother Eternal Wind, you have to be careful too. Demons cannot be underestimated. Dongbua Shuiying added. The two of them chatted for a while. The battleship tore through space and arrived at an empty space. Looking down, the tallest of the mountains was Snorrock Mountain. At the top of the mountain was Snorrock Castle. Snorrock Castle. Dongbua Shuiying revealed a smile. This was the place he grew up in. Naturally, he had deep feelings for it. Chapter 170. Snorrock Castle was very lively because the Marquis couple and the two young masters had returned, especially the legendary young master Dongbua Shuiying, who was a legendary transcendent. Dongbua Shuiying walked on top of the mountain. He took a deep breath and inhaled the cold, earthy smell into his lungs, causing him to smile. The smell of home, the place where he grew up. It was early spring, and Water Rights Town was located in the northern part of the continent. It was close to the northern snowfield, so there was still a thick layer of snow on top of the mountain. Of course, this was also because Dongbua Shuiying deliberately stepped on the snow. The main road to the top of the mountain had already been cleared by the servants and guards of the Dongbua clan. Greetings, Sir Snow Eagle. A white-robed old man smiled and bowed respectfully. Master by Yuanji. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. You haven't changed much since you were a few years ago. Sir Snow Eagle hasn't changed much. He is still as young as before. Bai Yuanji said. He had personally seen Dongbua Shuiying grow step by step from an extraordinary youth to where he was today. It was hard for him to estimate Dongbua Shuiying's current realm. These years, he had been relying on the Dongbua clan. With the help of the Dongbua clan's resources, he had also reached the Silver Moon rank. The Dongbua clan was the #1 clan in Azure River County. It was one of the top 3 clans in the entire Tranquil Sun Province. Senior Snow Eagle. A voice sounded. Jing Xiu was walking over. In 2 flashes, she appeared beside Dongbua Shuiying. Greetings, Master Yu. Bai Yuanji said respectfully. Of course, he knew of the other female transcendent from Azure River County. Jing Xiu, this is Master Bai Yuanji. Dongbua Shuiying said, in the future, when you cultivate here, you can occasionally give him some pointers. Okay. Jing Xiu smiled at Bai Yuanji. Master Bai, when my mage building is finished, you can come over occasionally. Thank you, Lord Snow Eagle. Thank you, Wizard Yu. Bai Yuanji was very excited. Currently, the Dongbo family had 3 legend rankers and more than 10 Silver Moon rankers. Bai Yuanji wasn't that eye-catching among them. However, he had known Dongbua Shuiying for a long time and was once Qing Shi's master, which was why his status was slightly special. They chatted for a while. Dongbua Shuiying and Jing Xiu walked side by side. Is this where you grew up? Jing Xiu asked curiously. Yes. Breathing in the air here feels different. Home is still the best. Dongbua Shuiying walked with familiarity. Oh, have you finished installing it? This is very simple. Jing Qiu nodded. The entire peak of Snorrock Mountain is within the range of the array. With these 3 great arrays, no demon will dare to come here. Jing Qiu was also watching curiously. She could feel Dongbua Shuiying's feelings for this place. She was also watching. This was the place where her true love grew up. The banquet was very grand, because tomorrow, Dongbua Shuiying and Jing Qiu were going to travel the world. Let me talk about some serious matters. At the end of the banquet, Dongbua Shuiying opened his mouth. Immediately, everyone from the Dongbua family and the Yu family quietened down. The person who spoke was a saint transcendent. Everyone returning from the infernal world can be considered a good thing. Although it is safer there, we are always cooped up there, doing nothing. Transcendents have their own pursuits. To mortals, it is like being imprisoned. Dongbua Shuiying laughed. Returning to the mortal world is the time for you all to show off your abilities. Immediately, everyone laughed. That's right. The Dongbua family and the Yu family were both transcendent families. How much power and influence did they have in the mortal world? In the Xia capital, they could only endure. There were a bunch of legend rankers there, and more than half of the transcendents in the Xia people were gathered there. They lived like rice worms, with very little entertainment. That kind of life was too boring, and it was a waste of life. Although returning to the mortal world is a little dangerous, it is still all right. A year ago, the battle between the Xia people and the demons was the most intense. But now, the demons have learned their lesson and are all hiding without a trace. The demigods of the Xia people have not been able to find a single demon for a long time. That is why they arranged for us transcendents to come back and hunt the demons. Dongbua Shuiying laughed. They're too good at hiding. This also proves that the battle between the Xia people and the demons has started to shift from the open to the dark. The demons are better at hiding and are less of a threat to mortals. That is why it is the most suitable time for everyone to return. At this time, there are a few safe places. One is this Snorrock Castle. It can be said that those demons from the abyss will not be able to barge in. Maybe the strongest demons can break the array, but they will need to spend some time. During this time, all you have to do is to report to your superiors through your communication wristbands. In a breath's time, a human demigod will arrive. Dongbua Shuiying laughed. Don't worry, I have flipped through the history of the Xia people and can tell you for sure. Demons are extremely cunning, careful, and selfish. There was no way he would risk his life for this. The possibility of this place being attacked by a demigod demon is lower than the possibility of gold falling from the sky. The other place is the Eternal Wind Academy. That is where the Eternal Wind Knights reside. Qingshi, you are part of the Eternal Wind Academy. You can enter. The most important place is the provincial capital. Even when the demons first invaded, no demons dared to barge into the provincial capital. Dongbua Shuiying said, the entire Xia people have a total of 19 provincial capital. Every provincial capital has been reinforced through the generations and has many arrays. They are much stronger than my Snorrock Castle. If a demigod demon were to enter, the array would be activated and he would not be able to escape. As for the weaker demons, once they are discovered, the might of the array can easily kill them. These 3 places are all very safe. Secondly, the county capital is also considered to be relatively safe. The array of the county capital is also quite powerful. Only a few of the strongest demons would dare to ignore it. Dongbua Shuiying said, all right, I have already told you about the safe places. My Dongbua clan and your Yu clan will decide how to run the clan in the future. All right, thank you, Lord Dongbua. Someone from the Yu clan immediately expressed his gratitude. They were very happy to see their own Yu Jingqiu and Dongbua Shuiying getting closer. In their eyes, Yu Jingqiu was only a beautiful, transcendent sorceress. On the other hand, Dongbua Shuiying had become a saint transcendent in a very short period of time. He had the potential to become a demigod in the future. Hence, they were very supportive. Brother, It's too boring at home. Yeah, and I will be returning to the Eternal Wind Academy in a few days. Qing sure said. All right. Dongbua Shueing did not stop him. Although his brother Qing sure looked young, he was actually almost 50 years old. Of course, compared to his lifespan of 200 years, it was still very early. The battle with the demons would probably not stop for the next 1,000 years. Was his brother going to be a rice worm for the rest of his life? That was obviously impossible. The upper echelons of the Dongbua clan and the Yu clan had returned. Naturally, they would continue to be the ones in power. Everything in the Xia people's world returned to normal. Of course, this was because the human transcendents were still chasing after the demons. The human demigods were also stationed in various places, able to travel through space to provide support at any time. It was precisely because of this pressure that the remaining tens of thousands of demons decided to go into hiding. The more hidden they were, the better it was for them. Because if they dared to be arrogant, they would be killed by the humans. Let's part ways here. The next morning, in the sky above Snorok Mountain, Dongbua Shueing and Jingxiu looked at each other and smiled. It was impossible for two transcendents to work together to chase after the demons. That was too inefficient. The Infernal Palace also forbade such a thing to happen. Senior Brother Snow Eagle, you must be careful, Jingxiu said. You too, Dongbua Shueing said. Very quickly, the two separated. Jingxiu turned into a ray of light and flew towards the south, disappearing into the horizon. Dongbua Shueing also flew towards Water Rights Town in the west. Chapter 171. Provincial capitals were extremely safe. County capitals were relatively safer. Places related to transcendent clans were also relatively safer. The demons also knew that the transcendents of the Xia people were looking for them. Thus, they would usually stay far away from these places. What was the most dangerous place? The large number of counties and villages were the most dangerous. The population here was densely packed. Even the weakest rank 1 demon would be able to do as they pleased. These counties were not a threat to them at all. After all, the world of the Xia people was too huge. There were too many counties at the lowest level. It was impossible for every county to have arrays that could suppress transcendence. They did not have that many resources. Xiao, how fast was Dongbua Shueying's current speed? The embryonic true meaning of extreme piercing's control over the heaven and earth energy, along with his transcendent body, was terrifyingly fast. It was much faster than when he first became a transcendent. From Snorok Castle to Water Rights Town, within a breath's time, Dongbua Shueying had already landed in Water Rights Town. After so many years, Water Rights Town hasn't changed much. Dongbua Shueying walked. The cloud water and fire robe on his body had also turned into an ordinary black robe. His face was also changing. With a slight change in his facial features, his appearance was completely different. His appearance as Dongbua Shueying. If the demons had the intention to search for him, they should be able to find out what he looked like. Naturally, he had to hide it. Hua, borrowing the heaven and earth energy, his soul force spread out in all directions, radiating over 100 kilometers. This 100 kilometers naturally enveloped the entire county of Water Rights Town. The millions of residents within the county were all under his observation. Whether it was the fights on the streets, the blood spilled in the dark, the flesh traded, the bitter training, all sorts of scenes were under his observation. Dongbua Shueying's powerful soul force was able to easily distinguish everything. Boss, give me something to eat. Dongbua Shueying randomly found a corner of a restaurant and ordered some breakfast. He ate slowly, investigating demons. Actually, it was that easy. As long as he walked around, he could eat, drink, and play around. As long as he often used the power of the world to investigate his surroundings, he would be considered to be doing his duty. There was nothing that could be done about it. The demons hid themselves very well. Just like how transcendents could turn their bodies into particles, they could turn into water, spheres, and so on. Abyssals could also transform. They could easily transform into human form. And since these demons live in the dark abyss, they had the means to conceal their auras. They changed their appearances and completely concealed their auras. Then, he would not be able to see any flaws. If they could see through the flaws, the human demigods would be able to borrow the power of the heavens and the earth to search a wider area. They would be able to search thousands of miles in one go, and they would be able to search the entire Xia people's world. But why couldn't they find them? It was because as long as the demons hid and didn't reveal their auras, no one would be able to tell that they were any different from normal humans. However, they only wanted to fight, or devouring human souls. As long as he did something that required him to use the demonic energy in his body, the aura of that demonic energy could not be concealed and would be immediately discovered. What Dongbua, Shui Ying, and the others needed to do was to maintain the surveillance of the heavens and earth and wait for their prey. The moment they discovered the aura of a demon, they would immediately chase after it. Borrowing the power of the heavens and the earth to search was very safe. This was because the power of the heavens and the earth was everywhere. As long as one didn't control the power of the heavens and the earth, and used the power of the heavens and the earth to search, the demons would not be able to discover them. If I just wait like this for half a year, I wonder how many demons I can catch. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself. The days of hunting demons were so leisurely. Every day, he would eat and drink. Dongbua Shui Ying was like a playboy. He would often sit in restaurants and other places for half a day, listening to female singers. After staying in Water Rights Town for a month, he didn't gain anything. Thus, Dongbua Shui Ying left Water Rights Town, walking through a few villages. Strange. There's no trace at all. Dongbua Shui Ying muttered to himself. He even used his communication wristband to communicate with other transcendents. Brother Dongbua, I can't find any traces either. I've asked the Dragon Mount Manor. A month ago, there were some villagers whose souls were devoured. But now, the entire county is very peaceful. I haven't heard of any cases of villagers' souls being devoured, nor have there been any cases of large-scale disappearances. Brother Snow Eagle, I feel that these demons are aware that we have been searching for them recently. It seems that they have retreated. Dongbua Shui Ying discovered that he wasn't the only one. Many other transcendents had also discovered that the demons had become even more low-key recently. At the beginning, they were just enduring, but soon they would not be able to endure it. Dongbua Shui Ying had read the dossiers of the demigods in the history of the Xia people. Naturally, he was clear that a dog could not stop itself from eating feces. How could it be possible for the demons to not devour the souls of humans when they saw so many humans? It might be possible for them to endure for 3 to 5 months, but it was impossible for them to endure for a few years. They would definitely go crazy. The Infernal Palace had also issued an order for the Transcendents to search patiently. Azure River County City. Dongbua Shui Ying was walking in the county city. He was in good mood. This was the place where he first met Jing Xiao. In the blink of an eye, 30 years have passed. Shui Ying casually entered a restaurant by the side of the street and directly went to the second floor of the restaurant. He found a seat by the window and sat down. After ordering some food and drinks, he began to slowly waste his time. Borrowing the power of the heavens and earth, he surveyed his surroundings. He even started to ponder about his spear techniques. As for investigating, he just needed to spend some time on it. Shui Ying enjoyed this sort of leisurely pondering over his spear techniques as he walked around. His heart could become more tranquil, and his own spear techniques could faintly become more reserved. Everything he did was to pursue the essence. He felt that if this continued, his spear techniques would eventually find a profound mystery that could make up for the flaws. In the afternoon, Dongbua Shui Ying suddenly frowned. She came here. Madame Yu Yu, my master has already arrived. He is waiting for Madame Yu Yu on the 3rd floor. Below the restaurant, a luxurious horse carriage stopped. A beautiful middle-aged woman dressed in luxurious clothing walked down. Beside her were 2 meteor rank guards. At this moment, an old man respectfully welcomed her at the entrance of the restaurant. Madame Yu Yu, please. Lead the way. The beautiful middle-aged woman said indifferently. She had a noble air about her. The old man did not dare to be negligent. This Madame Yu was a very famous and influential person in the upper circle of Azure River County. It was said that she was the first love of the legendary transcendent, Dongbua Shui. There were also rumors that she and Dongbua Shui were siblings. In short, when she was young, she lived together with the legendary Dongbua Shui in the same castle. This was not fake. Dang, dang, dang. Following the wooden stairs of the restaurant, under the guidance of the old man, the beautiful middle-aged woman led the two meteor rank guards up to the second floor, and then to the third floor. On the second floor, in a corner near the window, Dongbua Shui sat there, looking at the back of the beautiful middle-aged woman as she ascended to the third floor. Yu. Dongbua Shui mood was somewhat complicated. That year, that immature young girl who called him Big Brother Shui, the girl who had once made him incomparably angry, had now become a middle-aged woman. Although she still retained her charm and beauty, the wrinkles at the corner of her eyes could already be seen clearly. Her skin was gradually loosening, and in terms of appearance, she seemed even older than his mother, Mo Yangyu. That's right, Yi was already over 50 years old. Even now, she was still a heaven-rank mage and had not stepped into the star realm. In terms of lifespan, she could only live up to 80 or 90 years. Being able to maintain her current appearance was already not bad. Chapter 172. Towards Yu, he no longer felt any anger. After all, it had been a long time. At most, he would shake his head and smile. Furthermore, he and Yu were people from two completely different worlds. Yu had yet to step into the star realm. Her lifespan was short, and it would be extremely difficult for her to step into the star realm in the future. Normally, the number of star realm mages in a county could be counted with one's fingers. Yu's talent was not high. She had a short lifespan, but he had a lifespan of thousands of years. Through the power of the heavens and earth, he looked at her loose skin. That appearance of a middle-aged woman. How could he be angry? He could only sigh. Dongbua Shui did not intend to talk to her. Today, they had only brushed past each other. In the end, the two of them were heading in different directions. Business is pretty big. Dongbua Shui borrowed the power of the heavens and earth to cover an area of 100 li. At this moment, he could not help but pay attention to Kong Yu. Naturally, he saw and heard the conversation in the private room on the third floor. Actually, although Dongbua Shui was observing millions of people, in reality, it was impossible for him to pay attention to everyone. To pay attention to millions of people at the same time was impossible. Even demigods could not do it. At most, he could simply monitor everyone. Only when there was a demonic aura would he be alerted. Of course, if there was a shocking scene, he would be alerted. As for killing, fighting, cursing, colluding, talking, etc., these were all instinctively ignored, unless he was paying attention to someone. Third floor. Lady Yu brought two meteor rank guards up to the third floor. Under the guidance of an old man, they walked along an elegant corridor and arrived at a private room. Two guards stood outside the private room. They were ordinary knights. Creak. One of the guards pushed open the door. Haha. Lady Yu, please come in. A skinny man sitting at a table in the private room laughed and stood up. Baronine. Lady Yu smiled and walked in. The two meteor rank guards naturally followed. Creak. The door closed again. There were a total of 7 people in the private room. They were Baron Ying and his 3 subordinates, Lady Yu and her 2 guards. Lady Yu, please. Baron Ying smiled brightly. Lady Yu finally sat down. Come, have a taste. This is the 7 Treasures fruit wine that I brought back from the provincial capital. It's not for sale. I'm acquainted with one of the great magicians in the gold refining workshop, and that's how I managed to get my hands on this bottle. I can't even bear to drink it. Today, I specially brought it out to entertain Lady Yu. Baronine smiled as he helped to pour the fruit wine. The wine was as pure as a lake and exuded an enchanting aroma. Just smelling it was a pleasure. Come, let's have a drink. Baron Ying raised his glass. Lady Yu raised her wine glass and smiled. Thank you, Baronine. As she spoke, she raised her glass and touched it to her lips before putting it down. Baron Ying didn't come looking for me to drink, right? Lady Yu asked. Haha. Lady Yu is really straightforward. Let's get down to business. Baron Ying said. This time, I came here for the inn that your Kong clan owns in the provincial capital. Madam Yu, please state your price. We are very sincere. Do you really want me to name a price? All right, 5 million gold coins. Are you willing to buy it? Lady Yu smiled lightly. Don't scare me. Baron Ying said. I am very sincere. If you are sincere, then name a price. Lady Yu said casually. If we can't come to an agreement, I will leave. I still have a banquet to attend tonight. I cannot stay here for too long. 300,000 gold coins. Baron Ying gritted his teeth. How about it? Are you dreaming? Lady Yu sneered. Lady Yu, when your Kong clan bought that in 10 years ago, you only spent 120,000 gold coins to buy it. My offer is 300,000 gold coins. That's more than double. I'm already very sincere. Baron Ying said. Lady Yu frowned. Baron Ying, don't treat each other like fools. Right now, you and I both know the situation under the heavens. The legendary abyss demons are hiding in every corner of the world. Right now, the safest place is the provincial capital. All the nobles and rich merchants are thinking of ways to buy property in the provincial capital. Buying a house in the provincial capital is enough for the whole family to live in. Right now, the price of land and houses in the provincial capital is very high. Furthermore, it is constantly rising. I heard that the war between the demons and transcendents will last for thousands of years. Back then, my Kong clan bought it cheaply. Now, that inn of mine has dozens of courtyards. The land it occupies is very large. Now, the price has increased by more than 10 times. You want to buy it for 300,000 gold coins? Do you think that I, Kong Yu, am an idiot? Baron Ying laughed awkwardly. This Kong Yu was very well informed. It was said that the Transcendents had just returned from the Infernal Realm. The news of the war between the demons and Transcendents was only spread among the upper-class clans. She actually knew about it so quickly. I won't play with you. 3 million gold coins. A fixed price. Lady Yu said casually. That's too high. Baron Ying hesitated. Today, I will tell you this price. However, I can't guarantee anything in the future. Lady Yu stood up. You have the gold coins. No? Lady Yu sneered and turned to leave. 2 meteor rank guards opened the door for Lady Yu. Inside the private room, Baron Ying's face turned ugly. When Lady Yu walked out of the private room, her mood was extremely good. Because of her relationship with Dongbo Shuiying, all of the Transcendent clans in the Tranquil Sun province treated Kong Yu courteously. They were not willing to offend her. After all, no one knew what the relationship between Dongbo Shuiying and Kong Yu was. Therefore, not offending would not make a mistake. Lady Yu relied on this point to wander among the upper-class clans. She even got involved in some businesses. Others didn't have the qualifications to do it, but she dared to, because those Transcendent clans didn't want to push the Kong clan too far. As long as the Kong clan didn't go too far. After all, her younger brothers and sisters were much weaker than her. She had long become the real master of the Kong clan. She always had ambition. She wasn't willing to just stay in the county capital. Therefore, the Kong clan's business had long spread to the province capital. Naturally, they bought some inns, mansions, and courtyards. After these years of painstaking efforts, the Kong clan's assets could be considered to have reached 1 million gold coins. But this time, the invasion of the demons. This caused the prices of land and residences in the province capital to soar, more than 10 times. The Kong clan had made a huge profit from what they bought in the past. Now, she could even sell a large inn for 3 million gold coins. It could be said that the invasion of the demons had caused the wealth of the entire world. Countless rich people and nobles in the counties were rushing towards the province capital. 300,000 gold coins? Dream on. Lady Yu was very disdainful. Although the power behind Baron Ying was very strong, she wasn't afraid. Her Kong clan had business relations with some Transcendent clans. Why would she be afraid of Baron Ying? Tap, tap, tap. She walked down the stairs. Lady Yu's gaze naturally swept across the second floor. Previously, when she was walking up the stairs, she didn't pay attention to the second floor at all. But now, when she swept her gaze across the second floor, she saw a figure in the corner of the second floor. It was a black-clothed youth. Lady Yu Yu's body trembled. She stopped walking down the stairs. She looked at the back of the black-clothed youth. Too familiar. This familiar back. All these years, she didn't know how many times she had regretted it. How many times she had reminisced about it. She was too familiar with Dongbua Shui Ying's back. Furthermore, this back was exactly the same as back then. Is that him? Lady Yu walked down the stairs in disbelief. She nervously walked towards that direction. She felt her entire body was sweating. It had been many years since she was this nervous. Chapter 173. The two meteor rank guards behind her looked at this scene with some doubt. Lady Yu nervously walked to the window and saw the face of the black-robed youth. Lady Yu was slightly surprised. Different. This was a stranger's face. The black-robed youth turned to look at her. "Madam, what's the matter?" Lady Yu immediately said, "I mistook you for someone else." After saying that, she turned and walked toward the staircase. There were too many similar people in the world. That's right, a dignified transcendent would drink alone in a restaurant. This time, she must have mistaken him for someone else. She walked down the staircase with the two guards. I actually got recognized. Dong was Shui, and he shook his head and laughed. This time, he only changed his appearance. After all, many people knew about his appearance. When he was listed in the Dragon Mountain book, all the big clans would collect some basic information about him, which naturally included his appearance. As for his figure, unless it was someone who was very familiar with him, no one would be able to recognize him. It seems that the Kong clan's life is not bad. Dongbua Shuang nodded. No matter what, Kong Yu was a memory of his youth. It was a good thing that she was living a good life. Dongbua Shui Ying's expression suddenly changed. A cold light flashed in his eyes. In a private room on the third floor, Baron Ying sat there with an ugly expression. "Master," the old man beside him whispered, "this Kong Yu really doesn't know how to appreciate favors. She's just relying on her relationship with Dongbua Shuang. Maybe Dongbua Shuang has already forgotten about her. How dare she be so presumptuous in front of Master? In the past, we did not think much of the Kong clan. Her Kong clan is considered lucky to be able to buy such a big inn in the provincial capital. Since she doesn't give us face, we will secretly..." As he said that, he lightly chopped the air with his hand. He could see that his master was obviously very angry. "No." Baron Ying shook his head. The Kong clan was indeed not worth mentioning. In the past, they barely had 1,000,000 gold coins. This was also the result of Kong Yu's hard work for more than 20 years. But now, because the number of inns and houses in the provincial capital had increased, the biggest one was that big inn. The Kong clan's wealth was close to 5,000,000 gold coins. That was extremely high. In fact, with the help of the demon invasion, the great clans were all flocking to the provincial capital. The most powerful, transcendent clans in the provincial capital were the ones who earned the most. "We definitely can't provoke a transcendent," Baron Ying said in a low voice. "It's not worth the risk for an inn." "Yes," the old man replied respectfully. "Knock, knock, knock." Someone knocked on the door of the private room. Creak. The door opened, and a maid came in with a sweet smile. "My lord, shall we serve the dishes?" Serving the dishes? Baron Ying had been suppressing a bellyful of anger for a long time. At this moment, he glanced at the maids who came in. Those who were chosen to serve the guests in the private rooms on the third floor were all young and beautiful. Their figures were also excellent, with curves in all the right places. Baron Yin's gaze was like a knife on the maid, causing her to feel nervous and uneasy. She felt uneasy and fearful. "Close the door," Baron Ying said calmly. "Yes." The two guards outside immediately closed the door of the private room. "My lord?" The maid was nervous and uneasy. "I want to paint," Baron Ying said in a low voice. The maid heaved a sigh of relief. "Painting? Painting? Hurry up," the old man at the side urged. The two meteor rank guards in the room immediately took a step and went to the maid's side. "What are you doing?" The maid was shocked. "Uff, Her mouth was sealed. At the same time, one of the meteor rank guards skillfully took out a bundle of rope and quickly tied the maid up. As for the other meteor rank guard, he directly tore apart the maid's clothes, revealing a fair and youthful body. This made the maid extremely frightened. She wanted to struggle, but with the rope binding her, she couldn't move at all. She wanted to shout, but with her mouth sealed, she could only let out a very low woo-woo-woo sound. The soundproofing of this private room was too good. After all, knights who cultivated Do Chi had very sensitive ears. If the soundproofing wasn't good, some business conversations inside the room could be heard from the outside. Therefore, the soundproofing was very good. Even if someone shouted loudly inside, the voice outside would be very weak. Who? Baron Ying stood up. With a wave of his hand, a tray appeared beside him. On the tray, there were many knives of different lengths. The knives were very sharp and flashed a cold light. Con you really make me very uncomfortable. Baron Ying picked up a knife and looked at the frightened maid in front of him. He grinned and sneered. Don't be afraid, I'm just painting on your body. White skin, blood-red marks, emitting an aura of life. Don't struggle. Be obedient, and only you will die. If you struggle too much, I won't be happy painting, and your whole family will be finished. The old man and the two meteor rank guards at the side watched calmly. They were already used to it. Baron Ying was the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce. When he was angry or extremely happy, he would paint. When he was angry, he could vent his anger and calm himself down. After all, he was the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce. If he wasn't calm enough, it would be very bad. The door outside suddenly opened. Huh? Baron Ying looked outside angrily. The old man and the two guards also looked outside. They saw that the two guards outside the door had already fallen. A black-clothed youth walked in. Woo woo woo. The bound and sealed maid struggled with all her might. Who are you? Baron Ying's face darkened. He shouted, You dare to kill my people? Killing people is against the Empire's laws. He could tell with a glance that the two guards at the door were already dead. Oh, you know the Empire's laws? Dongbua Shui shook his head and walked towards the bound maid. The meteor rank guard beside the maid was furious. He instantly unsheathed his sword. Chi with a sound. A hole appeared on the meteor rank guard's forehead. He widened his eyes in fear and fell to the ground. Blood began to flow on the floor of the room. Not good. Baron Ying, the old man, and the other meteor rank guard felt their hearts turn cold. If he could instantly kill a meteor rank expert with a concealed weapon, then he could easily kill the three of them. After all, Baron Ying and the old man were much weaker. They had not even reached the star rank. I'm the vice president of the Sky Fire Trade Union, Ying Dan. Baron Ying said, This time, I'm really ashamed. If you need any compensation, I will do my best to make it up to you. The Sky Fire Trade Union was one of the top 3 trade unions in Azure River County. Their business was spread all over the Tranquil Sun province. Voila! The rope binding the female attendant broke apart. Shuang picked up a torn piece of clothing and handed it over to the female attendant. After all, it was currently spring, and the weather in Azure River County was still very cold. Thus, the number of torn pieces of clothing on the female attendant was not small. The maidservant hurriedly wrapped her tattered clothes to cover herself. Thank you, my lord. The maid was still in shock. Make up for it. 3 copper coins appeared in Dongbua Shui Ying's hands. Baron Ying and his subordinates were immediately terrified. Baron Ying said, I'm a baron, a noble. I'm the vice president of the Sky Fire Trade Union. You can't kill me. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The 3 copper coins flashed. Baron Ying, the old man, and the meteor rank guard all had a hole in their foreheads. They were all terrified and fell to the ground. The maid was so scared that she covered her mouth. The vice president of the Sky Fire Trade Union died. Just like that, he died because of a copper coin that even the villagers didn't care about. I wasted a few copper coins. Dongbua Shui muttered. If he was willing to reveal his true strength, he could directly use the world energy to kill them. However, he was chasing after the traces of the demon, so he didn't want to reveal his extraordinary methods. He had to keep a low profile. That was why he used copper coins to kill people. The Sky Fire Trade Union might investigate this matter. To prevent you from being implicated, go to another room first. Donghua Shuiying said gently to the maid. If you go downstairs in such a tattered state, you will definitely be suspected. The maid nodded. Go. There's no need to worry too much. Donghua Shuiying said. He didn't need to worry too much because he was going to stay in Azure River County for a month. Naturally, he had to deal with this matter cleanly and not implicate the maid. The maid was just an ordinary person. How could she possibly provoke the Sky Fire Trade Union? The maid hurriedly walked out and hid in a small room at the side. That was where the maids stayed and stored their clothes. Donghua Shuiying openly walked out and walked down the stairs. He returned to his seat on the second floor by the window and continued drinking his wine. Chapter 174. The restaurant was bustling with people and waiters. Furthermore, when Donghua Shuiying killed Baron Ying and his men, he didn't even bother to clean up the corpses. Thus, in just a short while, a waitress who was walking upstairs discovered the corpses. She exclaimed and hurriedly went downstairs to inform her boss. What? Baron Ying died on the third floor? The fat boss of the restaurant was dumbfounded. He felt as if the sky had collapsed. After a long while, he finally regained his senses. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and gulped, trying his best to calm himself down. To be able to open such a restaurant in the county city meant that he was experienced and knowledgeable. He knew how powerful the Sky Fire Trade Union was. It's over. If I can't survive this, I'm really done for. The fat boss brought his men to the third floor. He looked at the 2 corpses at the door of the private room, the 4 corpses in the private room, and the bloodstains on the floor. Boss, what should we do? One of the guards asked anxiously. The fat boss looked carefully at the private room. The clothes and the knives used to paint were all destroyed by Donghua Shuiying. He didn't want to implicate the ordinary waitress. So powerful. 2 meteor-rank guards died instantly. They didn't even have the time to resist. The fat boss mumbled. The murderer is at least a silver moon knight. The private room's window was sealed from the inside. The murderer shouldn't have escaped from the window. Little 5, hurry and ask who came up just now, especially if it's a stranger. He seems to be very powerful. Okay. Another guard hurriedly went downstairs. After a short while, he came back up again and said softly, Boss, I've asked. Other than our waitress, there's only a black-clothed young man from the second floor who came up. Black-clothed young man? The fat boss's face changed slightly. Where'd he go? He's still on the second floor. He's eating and drinking there. He's the only one near the window. The guard hurriedly said softly. The fat boss was slightly shocked. Little 5, you stay here and watch. No one is allowed to move. Also, completely seal off the third floor. No one is allowed to come up. The fat boss ordered, the rest of you, follow me down. The fat boss went down to the third floor with a guard. When he arrived at the second floor, the fat boss looked around. Most of the customers on the second floor were talking to their friends. Donghua Shuiying was the only one eating and drinking alone. In addition, he was by the window, and he was a young man in black. Naturally, he was targeted by the fat boss at a glance. When the fat boss looked over, Donghua Shuiying raised his wine glass and smiled at him. This caused the fat boss's heart to tremble. He forced a smile on his face and hurriedly left. At the back of the restaurant. You're fearless, aren't you? You're still drinking? You're not afraid at all. Do they have a grudge against the Sky Fire Trade Union? The fat boss pondered for a moment before ordering. Little 7, quickly report to the Sky Fire Trade Union that Baron Ying is dead. He died in a private room on the third floor of our restaurant. The murderer is still drinking in the restaurant. Yes, the guard hurriedly responded. The fat boss looked at the back of the guard as he left with a worried expression. He murmured, how unexpected. Do you think it's easy for me to run this restaurant? To encounter such a troublesome matter? I hope I can get through this. I'll be lucky if the Sky Fire Trade Union doesn't squeeze me dry. Otherwise, I can only fight to the death and report this matter to the Dragon Mountain Manor. Although he thought this way, he was clear that no matter how much he struggled, he would only cause some trouble for the Sky Fire Trade Union. Thus, he could only hope that the Sky Fire Trade Union would not be too ruthless. Very soon, in just an hour, the upper echelons of the Sky Fire Trade Union rushed to the third floor of the restaurant to conduct an inspection. When they were on the second floor, they saw Dongbua Shuiying drinking. Dongbua Shuiying looked at them with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. In a luxurious hall in the headquarters of the Sky Fire Trade Union, President Nanming Xin sat at the head of the table. He was over 90 years old, but because he was a Silver Moon Knight, he had the appearance of a middle-aged man. President Ying, how did he die? Tell me everything you saw. Nanming Xin squinted his eyes, a cold glint flashing in them. In the entire Sky Fire Trade Union, there were people in charge of business and people in charge of fighting. As the president, Nanming Xin was in charge of everything. As for Baron Ying, although his personality was twisted, he was very capable in business, allowing the business of the Sky Fire Trade Union to grow continuously. President Ying and his subordinates were all killed by hidden weapons, including his two meteor-rank bodyguards. One of the skinny old men reported. The hidden weapons have also been found. It's a copper coin. Furthermore, they were standard copper coins. Standard copper coins? The other upper echelons of the Sky Fire Trade Union exclaimed. Yes, standard copper coins. From where they were standing, President Ying and his subordinates were standing and even had their weapons drawn. Clearly, they were prepared to fight the enemy. However, they were all killed in an instant. There were no signs of battle within the private room. Clearly, the two Meteor Knights did not even have the ability to fight back. Based on our initial estimation, this was an extremely powerful Silver Moon Knight who was proficient in using hidden weapons. He might even be a Legend Knight. An extremely powerful Silver Moon Knight or a Legend Knight. Nanming Xin frowned. Who killed them? Was it a personal grudge? Or was it against the Sky Fire Trade Union? Although the Sky Fire Trade Union was powerful, they did not have any Legend rankers. If they really met a Legend Knight, it would be troublesome. Right now, we can almost confirm that the murderer is that black-robed youth. The skinny old man continued. When we went to the restaurant, the black-robed youth was still there. He even smiled at us. He was purposely provoking us. He still dared to provoke us? Nanming Xion's expression changed. Very good. Since he has come knocking on our door, our Sky Fire Trade Union will not lower our heads. Blood Rogue. Here, a muscular man with a scar on his face stood up. Blood Rogue was the strongest military force in the Sky Fire Trade Union. Bring your experts and 3 sets of God-exterminating crossbows. Nanming Xion's expression was ferocious. He dares to provoke our Sky Fire Trade Union. Our Sky Fire Trade Union has flourished for hundreds of years. We are not a group that a Lone Ranger can provoke. Even if he is a Legend Knight, we will kill him. Yes. Blood Rogue's eyes were filled with excitement. The God-exterminating crossbow was an extremely terrifying weapon created by a gold mage. It could threaten the life of a Legend Knight. A set of God-exterminating crossbow cost an astonishing 600,000 gold coins. Furthermore, it was not something that could be bought with money. It was used by the military. Even though it was forbidden to leak, some of the bigger powers were still able to get their hands on it. For them to be able to take out 3 sets at once, it showed how powerful the Sky Fire Trade Union was. The sky gradually darkened. Dongbua Shuiying finally walked out of the restaurant. Every single movement of the Sky Fire Trade Union was under his surveillance. For example, the young girl selling flowers at the side of the street, the child beggar at the side of the road, and the couple in the crowd. These were all spies that the Sky Fire Trade Union had arranged. These spies were here to keep an eye on the Sky Fire Trade Union. He came out. He entered the 5th alley. The 5th alley was an extremely secluded alley with very few people. This caused the people from the Sky Fire Trade Union to be pleasantly surprised. After all, the laws of the Empire were not to be trifled with. They did not dare to kill anyone on the crowded streets. He is truly seeking his own death. Everyone prepare yourselves. A Legend Knight can control the power of heaven and earth. and he is very dangerous. Thus, the moment he enters our ambush area, immediately use the god-exterminating crossbow and tie him up, Blood Rogue ordered. He smiled malevolently as he looked at the scene in anticipation. You dare to provoke our Sky Fire Trade Union and still act so arrogantly. In a moment, you won't be able to act arrogantly anymore. Very soon, a black-robed youth walked over from the dark alley. He's here. Blood Rogue's eyes lit up. Suddenly, the black-robed youth raised his head and looked over. He grinned, revealing his extremely white teeth. Chapter 175. The assassins who were hiding, including Bloodhand, all felt their heads buzzing. One by one, they all collapsed. Some even fell from the walls of the alley, while others fell from the roofs. None of them were breathing. Each of them had their heads pierced by a copper coin. Wrapped in the power of heaven and earth, these copper coins silently killed them in the darkness. I want to see what you guys can do next. Donghua Shui Ying's figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. In the dark and remote alley, a few scouts carefully followed the trail. Not good. They were all killed by hidden weapons. The murderer must have ambushed them from the dark. Yes, looking at the angle of the hidden weapons, the murderer should have been walking on the roofs beside the alley. He must have sneaked in and killed them. The scouts carefully examined the corpses and confirmed the extent of their injuries. They immediately rushed back to report. Night fell in a luxurious hall of the headquarters of Sky Fire Trade Union. The murderer ambushed them and used hidden weapons to kill them all. President Nan Meng Xian's face turned ugly. The assassins led by Bloodhand were all elites. They hid very carefully, but the murderer was still able to discover them and even ambush them. I'm afraid that he could control the world energy and use it to observe them. This murderer is actually a legend ranker. Although Nan Meng Xian had said it before, he felt that the possibility of the murderer being a legend ranker was very low, because there were too few legend rankers. In the entire Azure River County, there were not more than 10 legend rankers who could achieve one with the world. The possibility of an unknown legend ranker suddenly appearing out of nowhere was extremely low. He felt that the murderer was at most an extremely powerful Silver Moon Knight who specialized in hidden weapons. Even if he used some special gold-refined weapons, he would still be able to display the strength of a legend ranker. The team he sent out could also kill the murderer. But once the murderer achieved one with the world, if they were careless, they might succeed. But if they used the world energy to check, failure would be normal. President, what should we do? What should we do now? Is he targeting our Sky Fire Trade Union? Will he kill his way to our headquarters? Should we inform the Dragon Mountain Manor and ask them to protect us? The higher-ups of the trade union panicked. Don't be anxious, Nanmin Exen shouted angrily. Go back, all of you. Go back and wait. Let's observe the situation first, Nanmeng Xian said in a low voice. Let's see what this legend ranker is planning. Nanmeng Xian immediately and stealthily left the headquarters, returning to his own secret residence. At this moment, the headquarters was much more dangerous. He did not dare to stay there. The night passed. The sky gradually brightened. That night, the headquarters of the Chamber of Commerce was not attacked. Alone in the courtyard, he frowned as he pondered. Legend rankers. Kill President Ying and the others first. You deliberately stayed in the restaurant and didn't leave, and then killed the people I sent. It was clearly a deliberate provocation. There was no way he would let it go just like that. But he didn't launch a sneak attack. What did this legend ranker want? Or do you have a grudge against my Sky Fire Trade Union? Uneasy. If a legend ranker who had achieved one with the world really used a sneak attack, it would be enough to make the entire Chamber of Commerce panic. I have to solve this problem. I have to ask the elders for help. Nanmeng Xian quickly arrived at the backyard of his house and summoned a 5th-rank flying magical beast that was resting there. Let's go. He climbed onto the back of the flying magical beast. Hua! The huge cyan bird flapped its wings and quickly broke through the sky. Its speed quickly soared to the sky. At this moment, Dongbua Shui Ying was leaning on the roof of an inn, gazing at the eastern horizon. The sun had already begun to rise. This Ninming Xin did not sleep for the entire night. Now, he actually rode a flying magical beast and left the Azure River County? Did he go to ask for help? Dongbua Shui Ying thought. From the traces of my actions, he should have guessed that I am a legend ranker. Since that's the case, why would he still dare to ask for help? Who did he ask for help from? Could there be an even stronger power behind the sky, Fire Trade Union? This immediately attracted the interest of Dongbua Shui Ying. Shua! Dongbua Shui Ying instantly turned into a gust of wind and soared into the clouds. He slowly flew through the clouds, following the huge green bird and Ninming Xin. The speed of the huge green bird was extremely fast, reaching the speed of sound. Even a legend ranker could only watch helplessly. But to Dongbua Shui Ying, it was too slow. Ninming Xin rode on the huge green bird and rushed through the clouds for a total of 6 hours. He had long since left the boundary of Azure River County, after which he landed, changed his appearance, and followed a caravan. After traveling for half a day, he once again rode on a horse and traveled through the countryside. Dongbua Shui Ying was very patient as he followed the caravan. His interest grew bigger and bigger. There will definitely be some special discoveries. Dongbua Shui Ying was already looking forward to it. Ninming Xin rode on the horse for about 2 hours before arriving at a noble's territory. There was a luxurious castle there. The castle occupied an area of 5 kilometers, even larger than the Snorok Castle. Of course, the current Dongbua clan, other than the original Snorok Castle at the peak of the mountain, they had also constructed a large-scale castle at the foot of the mountain. Standing in midair, Dongbua Shui Ying watched as Ninming Xin entered the castle. Really, Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes lit up. His tentacles of heaven and earth power had long seeped into the clan's castle, and he could clearly see every corner of the castle. What a big fish. Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes were filled with excitement. Looks like I have to start a massacre. Asterisk, 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 asterisk inside the castle. There are many traps. Ninming Xin was respectfully waiting in a hall. Ninming, Elder Zhuo is asking for you. A Silver Moon Knight said as he walked over. Thank you, Brother Yu. Ninming Xin smiled. When will Brother Yu come to my Sky Fire Trade Union? I will properly entertain Brother Yu. It has been a long time since the two of us met. Now that the demons have descended, our mission has become even more important. We are not as carefree as Brother Ninming, who only needs to manage the trade union. The Silver Moon Knight smiled. AI, Brother Yu, you don't know this, but managing a trade union is not easy. Ninming Xin shook his head. The two of them quickly arrived outside hall. Inside the hall, a blood-robed elder was sitting there. His eyelids were drooping, and a formless pressure emanated from him. Greetings, Elder Zhuo. Ninming Xin walked into the hall respectfully. The blood-robed elder replied indifferently before opening his eyes. Ninming, what's the matter? You should know that I don't have the time to care about such trivial matters. Elder Zhuo, the Sky Fire Trade Union is in big trouble. Ninming Xin said. I have no other choice. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come here. Big trouble? Elders were frowned. The Sky Fire Trade Union only rose after many years of support. It is under my control, so I will hand it over to you. If there is a problem, you will have to pay with your life, and I will also be in trouble. I know. Ninming Xin said. It's like this. He did not bother explaining. He was very clear about how intense the internal strife was. He was part of Elder Zhuo's faction, so he naturally came to ask for help. If the Sky Fire Trade Union suffered a huge loss, it would be too late. A legend ranker? Elders were frowned. Who dares to oppose me? He naturally doesn't know that the Sky Fire Trade Union belongs to you, Elders. Otherwise, even if he had 10 guts, he wouldn't have dared to do so. Ninming Xin flattered. Although he succeeded in ambushing the assassins you sent out, he might not be a legend ranker. Perhaps he is just a Silver Moon Knight who specializes in assassination. Elders was sneered. Whatever. No matter who he is, you should go and discuss with him first. If you can settle this, it will be for the best. If you can't settle it, if he is too greedy, then just get rid of him. I will send 2 bronze emissaries to follow you back." Good. Nanming Xin was overjoyed. He knew how powerful the bronze emissaries were. 2 bronze emissaries should be enough to kill Si Lianghong. That brat dares to provoke us. Soon, he will know that he has provoked someone he cannot afford to provoke. Umph. Chapter 176. Dongbua Shuang looked down at the castle from high up in the sky. With the power of heaven and earth, he could see everything from the moment Nanming Xin entered to the conversation with the left elder. What a big fish! Dongbua Shuang was in a good mood. Actually, a mortal's strength could not be seen from the outside. Their battle chi was hidden within their dantian and could not be seen. For example, when Dongbua Shuang became a legend ranker, if he did not say anything, no one would know. Even if it was a transcendent with a strong aura, as long as they retracted their aura, no one would be able to see the depth of their strength. Once a demon's aura was retracted, even human demigods would not be able to find it. Therefore, under the power of heaven and earth, he could only see that this castle was a refiner's castle. There were a few refiner arrays and a large number of guards. He could not see anything special about it. However, the words Nanming Xin said when he arrived at the castle gate exposed everything. "Who is it?" The castle guard shouted. "B-15 requests an audience with the left elder," Nanming Xin said respectfully. This simple conversation made Dongbua Shuang overjoyed. Who was Nanming Xin? He was the president of the Sky Fire Trade Union. He was also a Silver Moon Knight. The trade union could easily mobilize millions of gold coins. The entire trade union had connections throughout the province. His position was so high that he was on the same level as a legend ranker. Such a big shot actually called himself B-15, and he even requests an audience with the left elder. He was so respectful to the guards at the gate, not daring to show any arrogance. Perhaps it's a branch of the Sorcerer God's temple, or a branch of the demonic faction, or the main altar of the demonic god. Dongbua Shuang speculated. In the mortal world, to be able to make Nanming Xin, the president of the trade union, act so respectfully, this mysterious organization's position could only be considered ordinary. It could only be a transcendent power, a branch of the Sorcerer God's temple, a branch of the demonic faction, and the main altar of the demonic god. The temple of the earth god had been chasing after the latter two. They were all hidden very deeply. If one of them was killed, the temple of the earth god's reward would be no less than killing a rank 1 or 2 demon. Currently, all the transcendents are searching for the evil demons. The evil demons are all in hiding. Dongbua Shuang smiled. No matter what, at least we have some results. At the very least, he would receive 100 or 2 contribution points. According to the importance of this place, there might be even more. Although the guards at the castle's main entrance were bored, they still stood ramrod straight and looked around carefully, checking for any signs of activity. Who? Suddenly, there was a gentle breeze and a black-clad youngster appeared at the castle's main entrance. Who is it? The castle guards were shocked. It was too fast. They immediately shouted after them. B-15 requests an audience with Elder Zhua. The young man in black grinned. The castle guard expressions changed drastically. B-15? The one who just entered was B-15. Enemy! A guard immediately shouted, and his voice traveled into the castle. The castle immediately fell into an uproar, and many people felt quite terrified. This place was too important. Many of them guarded this place for long periods of time. Some of them could not even take half a step out of this place for decades. On the surface, the strength of the clan that was disguised as this territory was quite strong. Nobody dared to attack this place. Now that they were being attacked, if they were to be exposed, the consequences would be too severe. You are right. I am the enemy. Dongbua Shuang grinned at the guard and casually kicked him twice. Pung, pung. The 2 huge city gates, which weighed over 100,000 jin, were tightly shut. With a loud bang, the entire city wall of the main gate cracked open, and the two heavy and tall stone gates were kicked away with a whoosh. Just like an ordinary person kicking a pebble, the two huge and heavy city gates, which weighed more than 100,000 jin, were directly smashed into the distance, directly crushing a building in the distance. With a rumbling sound, the guards inside who wanted to rush out were directly smashed to death and crippled, wailing in pain. The guards at the entrance were all scared stiff. Even a legend ranker would not be able to do such a thing. Dongbo Shui Ying leisurely walked into the castle. Immediately, a legend ranker manipulated the world energy and tried to investigate the situation. Previously, Dongbo Shui Ying had only used the world energy as a feeler. But now he was using force. Forcefully manipulating the world energy, the legend rankers within the castle could no longer control it. Kill him at all costs. The highest ranking leader within the castle knew that the situation was not good. However, this place could not be lost. Even if he died, this place could not be conquered. The enemy had to be killed, and the important items must be transferred away. The intruder should be a transcendent. The highest ranking leader of the castle was dressed in a silver robe. His face was pale, but at this moment, his heart was trembling with anxiety. I hope that this transcendent can be killed. He must be killed. This place cannot be lost. Absolutely not. Reporting to Master, the outer corridor has been conquered. The mechanism has fallen. It has failed. He walked out from the rubble without a single injury on his body. Release all your poison and poison him to death. The voice of the silver-robed leader was trembling. It was useless. As a saint-ranked transcendent, Dongbo Shui Ying was able to push his way through. Through his control of the world energy, he was able to understand the movements within the castle. He also knew who the leader was. However, he was not in a rush to push his way through. He wanted to see what else the leader of this castle could do. He wanted to see if he could lure out an even bigger fish. He had sufficient confidence in himself. What a joke. He could deal with almost all saint-rank transcendents. Perhaps only he, who was ranked in the top 10 of the saint rankings, would have a headache. However, he could rely on his extreme piercing to escape in an intense battle. What was he afraid of? Even if there was an enemy he could not deal with, he could just ask faction head Si Kong Yang and Eternal Wind Knight to rush over. Even the powerful demigods of the Xia people could rush over. In this mortal world, the Xia people were the rulers. A direct clash. No one could win against the Xia people. That was why the demons had retreated. Let me see what other powerful moves you have. Dongbo Shui Ying continued to push forward as he observed the movements of the people within the castle. Quick, quick, quick! Everyone get ready. Bronze emissary, silver emissary, gold emissary. Move them all. Prepare the formations. The entire castle was in a state of frenzy. They already knew that the enemy was a transcendent, so they became even more frenzied. Even if they had to die in battle, they had to protect this place. They could not afford to lose this place. Eldersville was one of the elders with an extremely high status within the castle. He rushed towards the inner castle with Nanmeng Xin and a few other subordinates following behind him. So. Their speed was extremely fast as they rushed into the inner castle. They leapt up. They quickly arrived at the highest point of the inner castle. Standing beside the railing and looking into the distance, they could see that the majestic castle was continuously collapsing. It was as though a monster was advancing. Everything was being destroyed. Nothing could stop it. So powerful. Eldersville could see clearly. He saw the youth in black leisurely moving forward. Everywhere he passed, everything was destroyed. All of the defensive measures within the castle, including the methods that could easily kill a pseudo-transcendent. Well, like a joke. It's him? Nanmeng Xin exclaimed. He had long since obtained a sketch of Dongbo Shui Ying's appearance after his spies had changed. You know him? Elders would turn his head. The others beside him also looked over. Nanmeng Xin was incomparably nervous. He nodded. I know him. He is the youth in black that subordinate mentioned. He is the one who killed Vice President Ying. It's him? Elder's eyes widened and his face turned pale. So it was you who lured him here? Nanming Xian's face was deathly pale. Because of that Vice President Ying, that dog-like little character, you actually brought such a calamity to our organization and attracted such a terrifying transcendent. Elders were angrily pointed at Nanming Xian, his finger trembling. You, for such a disaster, let alone him, even the high and mighty leader would not be able to atone for his sins even if he died. After death, his soul would probably suffer endless torment. I don't know. Nanming Xian also understood that he had really caused a huge disaster. Chapter 177. Come with me. Elders would gritted his teeth and shouted. At the same time, he rushed towards another part of the inner castle. Nanming Xian could only obediently follow behind him. Very soon, on another wide balcony in the inner castle, the silver-robed leader was coldly looking at everything that was happening in the distance. The black-robed youth was constantly advancing, and everything was being destroyed. At this moment, the strongest force that could be mobilized in the entire castle had been completely mobilized. They were making their final preparations to eliminate the enemy in one fell swoop. If they failed again this time, they would really be at their wits' end. Reporting to leader. Elders were brought Nanming Xian in. There were other elders here as well. Why did Elder Zhua let a junior in? The other elders frowned. The hierarchy in the organization was strict, but at this moment of life and death, they did not reprimand him. What is it? The silver-robed leader didn't even turn around. My subordinate knows about this transcendent. Elders Zhua hastily said. The silver-robed leader abruptly turned his head, and his fiery gaze immediately landed on Nanming Xian, who was standing behind the left elder. The other elders were also staring at Nanming Xian. Speak, the silver-robed leader barked. He killed one of my Sky Fire Trade Union's vice presidents. I sent our strongest team of assassins after him, but they were easily killed by him. I suspect that he is a legend ranker and am worried that the Sky Fire Trade Union will be in big trouble. Thus, after pondering for an entire night, I immediately rushed over. Nanming Xian hurriedly said, I didn't expect him to be a transcendent. I really didn't expect that. Also, I'm very careful, and I'm very cautious when I come. The silver-robed leader's gaze turned cold, bone-chilling. Nanming Xian's heart trembled, and even his voice trembled. It's actually just a vice president? The silver-robed leader was in great pain. It was just a damned vice president. A trash like nobody. Even if the entire Sky Fire Trade Union was destroyed, it would still be a small matter. But now it brought such a disaster. In that instant of anger, he thought of many ways to torture this damnable Nanming Xian. However, he soon understood that it was useless. No matter how angry he was, it was useless. It was too late. The silver-robed leader coldly looked at Nanming Xian. He could not be bothered to speak any more nonsense. He turned around and continued to look into the distance. Right now, he could only hope that his final counterattack would succeed. If he failed, he didn't even dare to think about the consequences. Nanming Xian's entire body was covered in cold sweat. His clothes had long been drenched in cold sweat. He stood there in a daze, his mind in chaos. How did things turn out like this? He regretted it. If he had known that the damned Vice President Ying would have died, he would have just ignored it. He was even willing to apologize to the black-clothed youth. How did he manage to track us? Nanming Xian also did not dare to believe it. Such a powerful, transcendent being. With just a little bit of strength, for example through the Dragon Mountain Manor, he would be able to suppress the entire Sky Fire Trade Union. However, he had killed the vice president first and then a team of assassins. Was there a need to deal with a Chamber of Commerce like this? And even monitored at all times? How could a transcendent be so bored? But he did not know. When Dongbua Shui Ying was searching for the traces of the devils, he would also be enraged when he encountered things that made him want to uphold justice. However, he did not want to expose his extraordinary strength. In the past, his chivalrous deeds were just trivial matters that did not cause any big waves. And this time, when he was serving justice, he had clearly encountered a big fish. It's starting, the final battle. The silver-robed leader, as well as the other elders, stared at the battle. Not even legend rankers were qualified to participate in this battle. If they went, they would only be swept away. Amen? Dongbua Shui-ing looked at the 21 figures surrounding him. There were men and women, fat and skinny, old and young, and all of them looked ordinary. However, the astonishing speed at which they had surrounded him clearly showed that these 21 figures were not ordinary. Hiss! One of the elders had a sinister look on his face as he let out a low roar. Black fur began to appear on his skin. Fangs appeared at the corners of his mouth, and scales began to appear on his skin. In the blink of an eye, the old man had turned into a demon-like creature with scales and strange black fur on the surface of the scales. He had fangs in his mouth, and his fingernails were like daggers. Not only him, the other 20 people also started to transform into monsters, and their auras were completely released. Demonification? Dongbua Shuang grinned. It's actually demonification. A total of 21 demonified experts. It seems like this place is quite important. Are you from the demonic faction, or are you the subordinates of some other demonic god? Demonification. This was a special technique that was commonly seen in the Dark Abyss. Whether it was a demon or a high and mighty demonic god, they were all famous for their tyrannical bodies. In terms of cultivating tyrannical bodies, the demonic gods of the Dark Abyss had done a lot of research. For example, those transcendents who relied on the demonic faction were able to obtain more advanced cultivation methods of the demonic god lineage. They were able to cultivate demonic energy, which could be used to temper their bodies with secret techniques. Scales would also appear on the surface of their bodies. Thus, those transcendents who relied on the demonic faction, once their strength was completely unleashed, their bodies would be covered with scales. Their defense would be astonishing, and their strength would be tyrannical. Every single one of them would have a near-immortal body. Some of the stronger ones would even have an immortal body. As for the demonification in front of them, it was of a lower level. After all, the demonification of mortals was usually done by Star Knights. Most mortals who demonified would die immediately, and it was very difficult for them to survive. However, those who survived would have a demonified body, possessing immense strength and a lifespan comparable to a transcendence. Kill. 21 phantoms instantly charged over. Crackle. The silent array was also roused. In fact, the entire castle's array was originally very ordinary, but at the moment of life and death, some key array tools were taken out of storage treasures, and the power of the array sharply increased, directly reaching the extraordinary saint grade. To be able to display such power just by relying on these mobile array tools, the value of these array tools alone would probably be at least 500 contribution points. The countless threads that were activated by the array were like intelligent snakes. They rapidly slithered over from all directions and wrapped around Dongbua Shui-ing, attempting to bind Dongbua Shui-ing. Interesting. Dongbua Shui-ing revealed a happy expression. Good fella, if I can get my hands on these array tools, it would be a huge profit. That Nanming Xin had really allowed me to earn quite a bit this time. Pooh! A dart appeared in Dongbua Shui-ying's hand, and he casually threw it out. Extreme piercing. As the saying goes, flying flowers and plucking leaves can all be used to display extreme piercing. Shwa! The dart instantly disappeared and reappeared 100 meters underground, following which the dart directly pierced through a crystal ball within the array. This was the energy conversion core. These array tools were too precious. Dongbua Shui-ing could not bear to destroy them. This type of energy conversion core was very common, and its value was relatively low. Pa! The crystal ball shattered. The energy within the array instantly stopped, and the countless threads disappeared. So. Dongbua Shui-ing casually waved his hand, and 21 transcendent Do Qi flew in all directions. Each transcendent Do Qi revolved, and Piu Pu, all of them pierced through the heads of those demonified humans. Instantly, they all fell to the ground dead. Not bad. These demonified humans, the strongest one seems to have the strength of a mid-sky realm warrior. Dongbua Shui, Ying said softly. 21 of them, 15 were peak legend rankers, 5 were early sky realm warriors, and 1 was mid-sky realm warrior. Of course, in front of Dongbua Shui Ying, there was no difference. All of them were fated to be swept away. Dongbua Shui Ying raised his head and looked at the distant balcony of the inner castle. On that balcony stood the silver-robed leader. This array, how could this array? The silver-robed leader was in despair. How could such a powerful array suddenly lose its effect? 21 powerful emissaries were killed in an instant. Dongbua Shui Ying continued advancing. He walked towards the inner castle. He was still very carefree, and there was even a smile on his face. This was because he was in a good mood. Come, let me see what other powerful methods you have. Hong, all of a sudden, the space in front of the inner castle started to distort, and a terrifying aura appeared. MN. Dongbua Shui Ying's expression changed as he looked at the distorted space in front of him. That distorted space was faintly resonating with the space in the outer world. A terrifying power, separated by many spaces and hundreds of millions of kilometers, forcibly passed through the barrier of the material world's membrane and directly transmitted to this place. A majestic figure started to condense and form. The silver-robed leader who was standing on the balcony of the inner castle immediately knelt down. Demon God above. Demon God above. The other elders knelt down one after another. Nanming Xian's face turned pale as he also knelt down. Chapter 178. This towering figure had a pair of gray horns and dark red skin. He was dressed in a luxurious black robe. Demonic God? Dongbua Shui Ying could feel the terrifying pressure from this towering figure. It was a power that he had never felt before. It had completely surpassed the demigods of the Xia people. However, there was another mysterious and unfathomable power enveloping the towering figure, easily suppressing the towering figure and suppressing its strength to an extremely low level. Damned world consciousness. The towering figure cursed under his breath, following which his gaze landed on Dongbua Shui Ying. His amber-like eyes carried a hint of a smile, and the smile on his face became even brighter. His body started to shrink, rapidly shrinking to the same size as Dongbua Shui Ying. Then he descended to the ground. Dongbua Shui Ying, am I right? The demonic god smiled warmly. Dongbua Shui Ying looked curiously at the demonic god in front of him. God. This was the first time he came into contact with a god. However, from his appearance, he could guess that this was a demonic god from the dark abyss. Having read through the records of all the demigods in the history of the Xia people, Dongbua Shui Ying knew that this was the so-called world projection of a god. Gods were unable to enter the material world directly. Even the gods of the Xia people, like the Dragon Mountain Emperor and the Cloud Sea Emperor, would be expelled from the material world the moment their lifespan reached 10,000 years. As for the gods from the outside world, they would be completely expelled and unable to enter. Therefore, there were 2 ways for gods to enter. The first was relatively simple. It was to send down a world projection. The Xia clan's long history of accumulating knowledge allowed them to understand the method of sending down a world projection. First, they would place a spatial mark on this material world. Then, separated by a great distance and many spatial obstructions, they would forcefully project their energy onto the spatial mark, forming a projection. The amount of god power required to do this was extremely terrifying. To maintain the existence of a world projection, one would need to expend god power continuously. The price was very high. Therefore, in the world of the Xia people, the demonic gods would only send down their world projections at crucial moments. Of course, some newly ascended gods like the Dragon Mountain Emperor couldn't do this. Only powerful deities who had cultivated to an extremely high realm could send down a heart world projection. In the history of the Xia people, The ancestors of the Xia people, such as the Cloud Sea Emperor, had sent down a world projection. The second method was extremely difficult, and it was to send a clone. The price of summoning an avatar was extremely terrifying. Even an existence like Emperor Yunhai would not be able to bear such a burden. In the world of the Xia people, only the Temple of the Earth God and the demonic faction had a deity avatar descend. That was when the two great powers fought over the faith of the Xia people's world. Both sides madly clashed head-on, even paying a terrifying price to send down a clone of a deity. That great battle caused the heavens to collapse and the earth to rend, with countless casualties. In the end, the demonic faction was defeated. Since then, they had completely hidden themselves in the darkness, never clashing head-on with the temple of the Earth God again. The doppelganger of a god spirit was terrifying. Although they were suppressed by the material world, and their strength was suppressed to the limits of a demigod. However, their utilization of the various laws of profound mysteries far surpassed that of a demigod, so their battle prowess was extremely terrifying. It has been 30,000 years since I last ascended. The demonic god laughed. To be able to see a young human transcendent with boundless prospects, it is truly a joyous matter. Let's sit down, drink some wine, and slowly chat, all right? Dongbua Shui Ying laughed. Drink wine? Sure, when I was a child, I had dreamed of drinking wine with a deity. I never thought that it would come true today. Please. The demonic god gestured with his hand. Dongbua Shui Ying did not stand on ceremony and directly walked towards the main hall of the castle. The silver-robed leader and the group of elders kneeling on the balcony of the castle were all shocked. The demonic god descended. He was actually drinking wine with his transcendent, and he was Dongbua Shui Ying? It's actually Dongbua Shui Ying? The silver-robed leader and the rest finally understood. This person who had come knocking on their door was the legendary youngest transcendent in the past 1,000 years, Dongbua Shui Ying. Quickly come and serve the wine. A cold voice rang in the silver-robed leader's ears. Yes. The silver-robed leader immediately obeyed the order and quickly went down. Within the luxurious hall, Dongbua Shui Ying was the first to sit down, not at all courteous. He was still controlling the heaven and earth energy to envelop the surrounding 50 kilometers, monitoring everything. The descent of the demonic god had actually made him even more vigilant. You and that great demon god from the demonic faction? Dongbua Shui Ying asked. I am just an ordinary demonic god from the dark abyss. How can I be compared to the great demon god? The demonic god hurriedly said, I am called Wu Yunhua. In your Xia people's world, I am just one of the many demonic gods. I am very inconspicuous. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded his head slightly. This demonic god's attitude was very low, very abnormal. Furthermore, according to what he knew, a deity had to forcefully project his world across many dimensions. The amount of energy required to maintain the projection was also very shocking. Yet this demonic god was actually leisurely drinking wine with him? There must be some sort of scheme. How did you know that I am Dongbua Shui Ying? Dongbua Shui Ying asked. He was also happy to waste time. In the entire Tranquil Sun province, there are only you and Peng Shan. The demonic god, Wu Yunhua, grinned, revealing his sharp teeth. Peng Shan is old, while you have a youthful aura. I guess that you are Dongbua Shui Ying. Looking at your reaction, my guess is indeed correct. Great demonic god. The silver-robed leader was pouring wine by the side. He was incomparably respectful as he poured wine for both parties. Dongbua Shui Ying drank the wine. The taste of this wine could only be considered ordinary. He had drunk better wine in the Xia capital. However, the one drinking with him today was a demonic god. This was truly something to be proud of. I have a matter that I would like to ask little friend Dongbua Shui Ying for a favor. The demonic god Wu Yunhua smiled. Speak. Dongbua Shui Ying said. AI, you should know that the dark abyss cannot be compared to the deity world. It is far too cruel. The demonic god Wu Yunhua shook his head and sighed. I painstakingly left behind a spatial mark in the Xia people's world. After a long period of nurturing, I was finally able to nurture a batch of subordinates. I have toiled and schemed and paid a hefty price to obtain a bit of faith in the Xia people's world. It was truly not easy. There's still a bunch of other deities and demonic gods fighting for faith in the Xia people's world. Not to mention the strongest demonic faction in the temple of the earth god. Demonic gods like us truly do not have it easy. The demonic god, Wu Yunhua, sighed. Dongbua Shuang listened. Some transcendence might resonate with him, but he had read too many scrolls. He was very clear that faith in the material world was extremely precious. Those who could stretch their hands into the material world were already extremely powerful existences. Don't be fooled by how courteous this demonic god, Wu Yunhua, was towards him. It was because he could not kill his way in with his true body. If his true body were to come over, a single breath of air would probably be enough to destroy him. As for the world projection, it was suppressed by the entire material world. Its strength was suppressed to the limits of a mortal. Although the demonic god Wu Yunhua's usage of the laws of profound mysteries was much stronger than his own, its strength was suppressed to the limits of a mortal. Even if he stood here and let him hit him, he would not be able to harm him at all. The world projection was suppressed to the limits of a mortal. The deity doppelganger was suppressed to the limits of a demigod. And from the difference in strength, one could deduce the terrifying price to pay for the deity doppelganger to descend. It was precisely because he was weak that he had to lower his head. I have a total of 19 provinces. Actually, I have only built 12 main altars. Wu Yunhua shook his head. And the place you are attacking now is one of those main altars. Every single one of them is the result of my blood, sweat, and tears. Thus, I would like to ask little friend Dongbua Shuang to help me out. Show mercy and don't kill them all. If you help me this time, I will naturally thank you, little friend, Wu Yunhua said. I am willing to give you a gift worth 2,000 kilograms of origin stones. Little friend Dongbua Shuang, just pretend that this matter never happened. Are you willing? Chapter 179. 2,000 kilograms of origin stones? How generous. Dongbua Shuang sighed. Demonic god, Wu Yunhua said, you should understand that I am currently in the dark abyss. It is very difficult for me to send treasures to the Xia people's world. Thus, 2,000 kilograms of origin stones is already a lot. I know. Usually, you have to go through the space-time temple to send them. Dongbua Shuang laughed. The heavenly realm and the dark abyss were too far away from the material world. It was also very difficult to descend. Previously, when the demons invaded the material world, it was only because of a coincidence that such a passage was formed. And if a demonic god or a god wanted to send some resources to the material world, the cost of the transport was usually much higher than the value of the items. Gods were unable to descend, and world projections were unable to bring items. Therefore, only through the legendary Space-Time Temple, which was a legendary existence, the members of the Space-Time Temple could travel to countless worlds. They could help to send items to the Xia people's world, but they had to pay a huge fee. Yes, you have to go through the Space-Time Temple, Wu Yunhua said. Wu Yunhua said, that's why you should understand my sincerity for a gift worth 2,000 kilograms of origin stones. I am very curious. Dongbua Shuang held his wine cup. This main altar has already been destroyed by me. The demonized envoys that you spent so much effort to nurture have all been killed by me. There were only altar masters and elders left. Did you take out 2,000 kilograms of origin stones as a gift just to save them? Is it worth it? The silver-robed leader stood to the side, holding a wine jug. He secretly glanced at Dongbua Shuang. No, of course they are not worth it, Wu Yunhua explained. But after a long time of infiltration, the entire Anyang province's underground network is worth it. Once this main altar is completely destroyed, the Xia people's Dragon Mountain Manor will use the main altar to find the many branches and uproot the underground network. If they die, then they die, but the underground network cannot be destroyed. Wu Yunhua said. They're the ones who truly contributed faith. Is that so? Dongbo Shuang sighed. What a perfect reason. I can't find any flaws. Wu Yunhua's expression changed slightly before he smiled. You should be able to understand that what I said is the truth. Faith is the most important thing to me. What, do you think 2,000 kilograms of origin stones is too little? So it was like this. A gift worth 3,000 kilograms of origin stones. If you were in the dark abyss, I wouldn't mind giving you 100,000 kilograms of origin stones. But you are in the material world. It's too difficult for me to send treasures over. I'm just an ordinary demon god, one of the many evil gods and demon gods. Why make things difficult for me? Acting pitiful on purpose. Donghua Shuang laughed. Fiend celestials are truly crafty. Do you agree to this deal? Wu Yunhua asked anxiously. Sorry, I don't agree. Donghua Shuang shook his head. Wu Yunhua's amber eyes were filled with anger. He was truly enraged. That damnable human transcendent. With his strength, he could easily crush this little bug to death. But his original body was in the dark abyss. His world projection was suppressed to the mortal limit by the Xia people's world. It couldn't threaten this transcendent in front of him. Why don't you agree? Wu Yunhua asked anxiously. Because of your main altar leader. Donghua Shuang smiled. I have to thank him. Wu Yunhua turned to look at the silver-robed leader. The silver-robed leader was also shocked. Yes. Donghua Shuang nodded. Respected Lord Demon God, when you descended, I found out that this is one of the main altars of the evil gods and demon gods. And according to the countless scrolls I read, under normal circumstances, when a transcendent of the Xia people attacks the main altar of an evil god or demon god, the main altar should quickly flee in all directions, not daring to resist. But this main altar leader gave the order to kill me at all costs. Donghua Shuang sighed. It's very strange. I am a transcendent of the Xia people. I can immediately ask the demigods of the Xia people to help me. The chances of him killing me are very low, but he actually wants to fight to the death. Lord Demon God, don't you think it's strange? Donghua Shuang looked at Wu Yunhua, and at the crucial moment, you actually descended. Out of 19 provinces, just one main altar destroyed, you can definitely handle it. According to what I know, the number of times when a main altar is destroyed, the number of times a god's world projection descends is also very small. Donghua Shuang chuckled. These are not the main reasons. The main reason is you, an evil god or demon god, will make the transcendence of the Xia people compromise. Donghua Shuang laughed coldly. Dream on. Xia people transcendence in history did not care about these evil gods or demon gods. So what if they were strong? They could not enter with their true bodies, so it was useless no matter how strong they were. After all, most of the transcendents of the Xia people could not become gods. Once they became gods, they would have the chance to step into the vast world. That was nothing. The god realm was too vast. In the god realm, those evil gods were only the overlords of some small corner of the world. The chances of encountering one was like a meat pie falling from the sky. As for demon gods, human transcendents who cultivated normally would enter the god realm in the future. Demon gods did not need to care about them. Human. Wu Yunhua suppressed his anger. I advise you not to make an enemy out of God. Respected Lord Demon God, this is the world of the Xia people. Don't put on airs in front of me, okay? Donghua Shuang said with a smile. Wu Yunhua's eyes burned with flames. He suppressed his anger. 2,500 kilograms of origin stones. This is the biggest price I can pay. If you're happy, I am happy too. Isn't that right? No. Donghua Shuang shook his head. Boom. Wu Yunhua suddenly stood up. His body was covered in flames, and a terrifying pressure filled the air. It was as if the entire world was about to be destroyed. His amber eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Donghua Shuang. I am unable to truly descend, but since you have angered me, you will pay a price that you cannot bear. Human, I've already given you a lot of face. Are you trying to threaten me? Dongbua Shui Ying's flaming transcendent battle qi surged out in all directions. The table in front of him instantly exploded. Wu Yunhua was knocked backwards by the battle qi, and his body became blurry. Following this, the darkness abyss continued to transmit energy into his body, causing it to reform. You, a demon god, dare to threaten the Xia people of the Xia people? Dongbua Shui Ying laughed coldly. Wu Yunhua was furious. In the darkness abyss, he was the true overlord who ruled over an incomparably vast territory. Countless creatures submitted to him. Today, the Xia people of the Xia people didn't give him any face. But he couldn't do anything about it. He really wanted to succeed in this negotiation because he really didn't want to lose anything here. The price of losing something here was simply too great. If it weren't for the fact that he was worried about Dongbua Shui Ying's suspicions, he would have been willing to hand over 50,000 kilograms of origin stones and let Dongbua Shui Ying leave. When he said 50,000 kilograms, Dongbua Shui Ying was already very surprised. If he dared to say 50,000 kilograms of origin stones, Dongbua Shui Ying would definitely be able to guess that there was something special about this place. It was even more impossible for him to agree. You really don't want to agree? Wu Yunhua stood there, his voice calm. Dongbua Shui Ying also understood that this demon god was no longer willing to negotiate and was now giving him an ultimatum. If he refused, he would completely offend this demon god. Offend him? Xia people of the Xia people's fear of demon gods was a joke. I refuse. Dongbua Shui Ying also stood up. Very good. Very good. Wu Yunhua coldly stared at Dongbua Shui Ying. Human, remember this. You will regret your decision today. At the same time, in the inner castle, apart from the silver-robed leader, a group of elders, and Nanmeng Exant, there was also a group of servants. One of the servants was chubby and had a simple and honest face. He even had a mustache. He looked very ordinary, but at this moment, a wave of energy transmitted into his mind. Negotiations have failed. This damned human Dongbua Shui Ying is completely unwilling to compromise. I don't want to lose anything here. It's time for you to act. Kill this Dongbua Shui Ying. Lord Demon God, I only swallowed 10,000 human souls that you provided. You want me to take such a big risk? The servant replied in his mind. Chapter 180. You want to go against the oath? The demonic god Wu Yunhua was furious. A weak demon dared to bargain in front of him? In the dark abyss, countless demons submitted to him. None of them dared to disobey his orders, because those who disobeyed him were long dead. Among his countless subjects, he could not even be bothered to look at a demon of this level. They were not even qualified to attract his attention. This was because this was the world of the Xia people. As a demonic god, the power he could use in the world of the Xia people was too little. That was why he made an oath with this weak demon. Lord Demonic God, of course I would not dare to go against the oath. But the oath clearly stated that I cannot do anything that will result in my death. The servant replied, Dabai Shi, this Dongbua Shui Ying became a transcendent 20 years ago. Currently, he has only just broken through to the early stage of the Saint Realm. Furthermore, he has only cultivated for a short period of time. With your combat power, I'm afraid you can kill him in a single move. You have about a breath's time to fight. In a breath's time, you can easily attack more than 100 times. Xia people transcendents would immediately report the demon to their superiors. However, Xia people demigods would need a breath's time to rush over. This was because teleportation, which took a very short time, covered a very short distance. It required teleportation time and time again. The more time it took, the more time it took. It was not suitable for long-distance travel. Tearing open a spatial tunnel to travel through it would also take some time, about a breath's time. This breath's time was also the most dangerous moment for Xia people transcendents. If they were lucky, Xia people transcendents would discover the demon, but the demon would not discover them. Naturally, this would be the easiest. As long as they reported it, the Xia people demigods would arrive and easily finish off the demon. However, if the demon also discovered the Xia people transcendence. Then they would counterattack. This would be dangerous. It would be best if Xia people transcendence could kill the demon. If they could not, they would have to try their best to survive for a breath's time. In history, during the war with the demons, many Xia clan transcendents had died under the demon's counterattack. If I kill him, the demigods of the Xia people will arrive soon. How can I escape? I will bring you along and quickly teleport away. Although my strength has been suppressed, these Xia people are far from being able to compare to me in terms of the usage of laws and profound mysteries. I can easily escape with you. Half a breath. I will fight for half a breath. If I lose, you must take me away immediately. The chubby servant replied in his mind. All right, in half a breath's time. Even if you fail, I will still bring you away. Demon god Wu Yunhua was also looking forward to it. As long as he managed to kill Dongbua Shuiying, he would immediately escape with this demon. Once the human demigods arrived, they would definitely follow the spatial ripples and chase after them. For the time being, the humans wouldn't care about those weak mortals. It would also take time for the mortals of the Dragon Mountain Manor to arrive. By then, the subordinates hidden in the main altar would have enough time to dismantle the treasures and move them. If they could negotiate, they would negotiate. If the negotiation failed, then kill. The treasure must be protected. What's wrong? Lord Demon God is so angry that he's about to go crazy? Dongbua Shuiying looked at the black-robed, red-skinned, horned demon god in front of him. However, he didn't know that this demon god had already negotiated with another demon. After all, the demon god's usage of laws and profound mysteries was too profound. Compared to the demon god, right now, he was just a young and immature fellow on the path of transcendence. Humph. Wu Yin was snorted coldly, just as he snorted Hua. A chubby servant, who was originally a few hundred meters away, suddenly burst forth with speed. In an instant, he had already passed through the corridor and appeared in front of Dongbua Shuiying. Not good. Dongbua Shuiying's expression changed. He could already clearly see that countless black scales had appeared on the chubby and honest servant's body. His body had also expanded to a height of 2 zhang. On top of his thick palms that were filled with fine red scales, a pair of huge ox-horned axes appeared. The edges of the axes were incomparably sharp, sending chills down one's spine. A layer of fine red scales also appeared on his face. His pair of dark yellow eyes were filled with brutality. Demon. Dongbua Shuiying's consciousness immediately reported to the Infernal Palace through his communication wristband. Demon discovered. Demon? The demigod closest to Dongbua Shuiying was the eternal wind knight Qiu Qi, by who was currently in the Tranquil Sun province. At this moment, he was in the Eternal Wind Academy, giving pointers to his 2 disciples. Snow Eagle discovered the demon? Qiu Qi stood up abruptly. He had received the news through his communication wristband, and had also obtained the exact location of Dongbua Shuiying. Qiu Qi could not be bothered to speak to his disciples. Right now, every second was of the essence. This was because if he was even the slightest bit slower, the transcendence of the Xia people who discovered the demon might lose their lives. Shua. The space in front of him was violently torn apart. Qiu Qi took a step forward and entered it. As Dongbua Shuiying was reporting to the Infernal Palace, a long spear appeared in his hands. Demigod weapon, Stellar Fire Cloud Spear. Hiss! The huge, ugly feet stomped on the stone tiles on the ground, causing the ground to cave in. The stone tiles that it stepped on turned into powder, and the surrounding ground started to crack. The huge oxhorn axe in his right hand danced in the air. It was as though the heavens and earth were being sliced apart. In an instant, the huge oxhorn axe appeared in front of Dongbua Shuiying. Too fast, too ferocious. The blade of this oxhorn axe was even taller than Dongbua Shuiying himself. The entire axe was enveloped in a layer of fiery red light, causing Dongbua Shuiying to feel as though he was looking at a volcano erupting. The boundless ferocious might seem to be unstoppable. Xiao. The moment the spear appeared in Dongbua Shuiying's hands, he did not hesitate to unleash his most ferocious attack. Extreme piercing. Sila, Dongbua Shui Ying's figure flickered, and he disappeared along with the spear. Following which, he reappeared in front of Dongbua Shuang, about 1 zhang in the air. His entire body seemed to have teleported more than 1 zhang away, allowing Dongbua Shui Ying to completely dodge the terrifying ox-horned axe's horizontal slash. Furthermore, Dongbua Shui Ying's spear directly pierced towards the demon's head. It was too fast, too strange. His other hand that was holding onto the huge ox-horned axe hurriedly moved forward. The axe's length and width were about 1 zhang, and with this move, it narrowly blocked the tip of Dongbua Shui Ying's spear. This was a move that had not been held back at all, and the collision created a terrifying shockwave. The shockwave exploded outwards in all directions, and in an instant, a large number of stone slabs within 100 meters were turned into dust. The body of the silver-robed leader who had been pouring wine for them was also directly torn apart by the shockwave, and he died on the spot. Even the demonic God's world projection hurriedly evaded the shockwave, and in an instant, it was already several li away. No. The elders, the Silver Moon Knights, the servants, and even that Nan Meng Xian all died, as the stone slabs turned into dust, and as the stone slabs around them shattered. Other than a legend ranker who left behind a relatively intact corpse, the bodies of the others were completely destroyed. How could this be? Even in death, Nan Meng Xian could not understand how a single Baron Yin's death could lead to such a terrifying outcome. Chapter 181. Demon she staggered 2 steps back before regaining his balance. He could feel the piercing power from Dongbua Shui Ying's spear entering his body, making him feel very uncomfortable. This terrifying piercing power is just a small matter. It can't even shake my powerful body. But how did he suddenly disappear just now? How did he suddenly teleport more than 10 feet away? He can even change his position in the middle of a battle? This is too troublesome. What? Dongbua Shui Ying was equally shocked. I used my full strength, and he only took 2 steps back. His body was still at a disadvantage. His body was only at the peak of the sky realm, and his transcendent chi was only at the same initial phase. During the battle, he had relied on the embryonic true meaning of extreme piercing to form the power of the laws of profound mysteries. The power of the laws of profound mysteries was already very terrifying, but his own chi was still too weak. That was why Dongbua Shui Ying had exchanged for a demigod weapon, the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear. A demigod weapon coupled with extreme piercing allowed his attack power to increase explosively. Only then did he have the qualifications to fight against a peak saint. But after using his full strength, his opponent only took 2 steps back. His body is too strong, and his strength is too strong. Dongbua Shui Ying made his judgment. Demon Bai Shi, who had taken 2 steps back, opened his mouth wide and revealed his fangs. He let out a terrifying roar that caused even the space around him to tremble. Bo, bo, bo. The roar spread out in all directions, causing visible ripples in the space around him. This roar was as violent as a volcano eruption. Under the effects of the profound mysteries of the sound waves, Dongbua Shui Ying's body would be easily turned into dust. Seeing the ripples spreading out, Dongbua Shui Ying's expression changed. So. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately used his extreme piercing to retreat. It was impossible for him to dodge this terrifying roar with normal flying speed. Although Dongbua Shui Ying's speed was 10 times faster than the speed of sound, this roar contained the laws of profound mysteries. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area of over 1,000 meters. Fortunately, extreme piercing was extremely fast. In the air above the ruined inner castle, Dongbua Shui Ying's silhouettes appeared 3 times and retreated 200 meters away. The power of the furious roar weakened as it traveled further. When it reached a distance of 200 meters, Dongbua Shui Ying swung his spear in a circle, executing the profound mysteries of water, fire, and wind to suppress the furious roar. Demon Dabi, she also stopped roaring. This roar had obviously caused great damage to his throat, but with his terrifying regenerative abilities, he would quickly recover. Shua shua. Dongbua Shui Ying instantly closed in on Demon Dabi Shi. Die. In an instant, Dongbua Shui Ying transformed into 3 silhouettes. The 3 silhouettes simultaneously appeared in 3 different directions around Demon Dabi Shi, each holding a spear and thrusting it forward. Demon Dabi, she was shocked. An illusion? Which one of them is real? A fiery red radiance appeared on the surface of his body. This fiery red radiance also emitted fluctuations of the laws of profound mysteries, spreading in all directions. He wielded 2 gigantic ox-horned axes in his hands in a panic to defend himself. When the fluctuations reached 2 of the illusions, Dongbua Shui Ying's real body wielded his spear and moved a foot horizontally. Just this 1 foot was enough to stop the ox-horned axes from defending themselves. Die! Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes were filled with killing intent. Puchi! The stellar fire cloud spear instantly pierced into Demon Dabi Shi's head. However, at this moment, Dongbua Shui Ying felt a sense of difficulty, and he immediately knew that something was amiss. The tip of the spear rotated. Originally, it was supposed to pierce through Demon Dabi Shi's skull, but now it pierced through his face. Although he still felt some resistance this time, he forcefully penetrated through. It completely pierced through his face. Then it exploded. The explosive power of the profound mysteries of water, fire, and wind rushed up to the inside of the demon's skull, turning it into a paste. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately retreated. This demon's skull is too hard. Dongbua Shui Ying was inwardly shocked. My extreme piercing was actually unable to pierce through his skull. Fortunately, my spear technique is extremely fast, and I was able to pierce through his face and kill him. After all, he was only at the embryonic form of extreme piercing, and this demon's body was too strong. Chi, Demon Dabi, she stood there, but the injuries on his skull were rapidly recovering. The gigantic hole on his face was also recovering rapidly. What? Dongbua Shui Ying was shocked. Undying body. Transcendents also had vital points on their bodies. For example, the heart, throat, etc. were normal vital points. However, the skull was the truly fatal one. However, as one's body gradually grew stronger, the vital points would no longer be vital. In fact, if one were to attain the undying body, not a single part of the body would be a vital point. Even if the body was completely torn apart, it would still be able to regenerate. Demons were generally more talented than primordial life forms. According to the intelligence report on demons sent by the Xia people, about 20% of rank 4 demons had grasped the undying body. More than half of rank 5 demons had grasped the undying body. Demigod demons, all of them definitely had the undying body. This powerful demon had clearly cultivated his body to the point of attaining the undying body realm. General, save me. Demon Dabi, Shi's consciousness immediately called for help through his communication treasure. The Xia people had communication wristbands. In the darkness abyss, there were countless demonic gods. In terms of forging equipment, deity weapons, etc., they were much stronger than the Xia people. These low-level demons did not have powerful weapons, but they still had communication treasures. Dabi Shi? What's the matter? There's a transcendent from the Xia people. I'm not his match. Demon Dabi, she was incomparably anxious. Who is he? It's Dongbua Shui Ying. His name is Dongbua Shui Ying. Demon Dabi, she begged. General, save me. Although the wound on his head had yet to recover, he still wielded his giant horned battle axe and tried his best to block. In reality, his angry roar was the only move that could threaten Dongbua Shui Ying. However, the huge hole on his face had yet to fully recover, so he could not roar at all. Boom, boom, boom. Dongbua Shui Ying used his extreme piercing to surround him and attack with his spear again and again. His face exploded once again. His throat was pierced, exploding and breaking apart. His two arms were pierced, leaving huge holes in them. Perhaps Demon Dabi, Shi's skull, was extremely hard, and his horns were also very hard. However, the muscles, skin, and scales on his body could not block Dongbo Shui Ying's spear. Almost instantly, many holes appeared on his body, and his two arms fell off. "General, save me." Demon Dabi, Shi's consciousness anxiously called for help through his communication treasure. Although he had an undying body, it did not mean that he could not die. For example, the demigod-ranked demon from before had also been killed by the demigods of the Xia people. Now, Demon Dabi, Shi could not resist at all. He could only be ravaged and eventually die. Dongbo Shuiying stood there. The fiery red transcendent battle chi in his body flew out like countless threads, wrapping around the demon's head, arms, and legs. The demon's entire body was split apart and suppressed by the transcendent battle chi. It was impossible to reconnect them. What a fellow! His body has already become undying, and his strength is formidable as well. Dongbo Shuiying muttered to himself. From the start to the end, he did not even dare to receive a single blow from Demon Dabi, Shi's battle axe. Even a peak saint-ranked transcendent would be at a disadvantage against him. Fortunately, my extreme piercing is extremely proficient in piercing through space, allowing me to maintain the initiative. Fortunately, I obtained the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear this time. Otherwise, I might not even be able to pierce through his scales. The surface of this demon's body was covered in a layer of fiery red light. It was the manifestation of the laws of profound mysteries. If he did not have the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear, he would not be able to pierce through it. Even with this demigod weapon, he was still unable to pierce through the demon's skull. One could see how strong his body was. Star. Chapter 182. In the distance, the demonic god Wu Yunhua was currently standing in mid-air, watching from afar. The shockwave created by the battle between Shui Ying and the demon Dabi, she was simply too terrifying. How could he, who was merely at the limits of a mortal, withstand the shockwave from a battle between two peak stage saints? Hence, he had long hidden far away. He could see the rumbling from afar. Clearly, the shockwaves from the battle between Dongbo Shuiying and Demon Dabi, she had swept through the surroundings. The inner castle of the castle had been reduced to rubble. Half of the outer castle had collapsed, and the remaining areas were filled with cracks. I can't even see clearly. Demonic god Wu Yunhua anxiously wanted to know what was happening in the battle. However, he had no way of knowing the details of the battle. The battle between Dongbo Shuiying and Demon Dabi, she was too fast. In less than half a breath's time, the battle had already stopped. There were no longer any terrifying shockwaves. Wu Yunhua could clearly see the scene in the distance. Amidst the rubble, under the smoke and dust, Demon Dabi's body had been torn apart. Dongbo Shuiying stood by the side. Countless fiery red strands of transcendent chi were completely suppressing every part of the demon's body. Defeated, Wu Yunhua couldn't believe it. Demon Dabi, she had actually lost to such a young, sane initial stage transcendent of the Xia people. At this moment, he really didn't want to accept it. He didn't want to accept everything in front of him. But it was the truth. As someone who had climbed to a sufficiently high peak in the dark abyss, and was even able to spread his faith in the material world, the great demon god had no choice but to accept it no matter how unwilling he was. Dongbo Shuiying, as long as you help me once, I will give you 50,000 kilograms of origin stones. 50,000 kilograms. Wu Yunhua directly transmitted. His voice was strange and unfathomable as it rang in Dongbo Shuiying's mind. 50,000 kilograms? Dongbo Shuiying turned his head and saw demonic god Wu Yunhua in midair. He had suspected it previously, but now he was actually willing to take out 50,000 kilograms of origin stones. As an abyss demon, his subordinates in the Xia people's world were weak, so it was extremely difficult to prepare 50,000 kilograms of origin stones. If one were to transport 50,000 kilograms of origin stones through the temporal temple, the price would be extremely shocking. Hence, at this moment, Dongbu Shui Ying was certain. This main altar was definitely not an ordinary main altar. There must be something very important to demonic god Wu Yunhua. If you do not agree, I, Wu Yunhua, swear that my revenge will never stop. In 10,000 years, in a million years, even if it's your clan, I will completely destroy them. Demon god Wu Yunhua threatened Su Chun as he offered the 50,000 kilograms of origin stones as a reward. He also knew that if he said 50,000 kilograms of origin stones, Dongbu Shui Ying would definitely be able to guess that there was a big secret about this place. But even if he didn't report it, the Xia people would still carefully inspect the entire altar after they were defeated. They would still find out. So he made his final struggle. Threaten me? There are so many evil gods and devil gods. If we, the Xia people, transcendents, would lower our heads just because they threatened us, the Xia people, how could we, the Xia people, survive until now? Dongbu Shui Ying replied to the demonic god Wu Yunhua in his mind. You need to use your strength and even send some resources from the dark abyss to the Xia people's world. Just for revenge? How many times are you willing to pay such a huge price? There is no need to talk about anything else. Even if the price was relatively low, many evil gods and devil gods would not appear when their main altar was destroyed. For example, the last time Wu Yunhua appeared was 30,000 years ago. You don't agree? Demonic god Wu Yunhua was incomparably angry. Scram! Dongbu Shui Ying roared in his mind, but he was unable to block demonic god Wu Yunhua's voice transmission. Clearly, demonic god Wu Yunhua's usage of profound mysteries was too profound. Damn it! Damn it! You really deserve to die. Just you wait, Dongbu Shui Ying. I will definitely not let you off. Even if you die in the future, I will think of a way to capture your soul and bring it into the dark abyss. I will make you sink into the darkness forever and suffer endless suffering. There will be no end to it. Do you only know how to threaten? If you have the ability, show me something real. Let me see what tricks a demonic god like you has. Shui Ying sneered. He casually waved his hand, causing the world energy in the distant sky to condense into a gigantic palm. This palm majestically pressed down on the demonic god Wu Yunhua in midair. Demonic god Wu Yunhua looked up at the huge palm and snorted coldly. Shua! His body instantly pierced through the void and disappeared. In terms of the profound mysteries of void traversing, he clearly surpassed any of the Xia people transcendents. Unfortunately, his strength was suppressed to the limits of mortals, causing his world projection to be of no threat to transcendence. The last communication between the two was through soul transmission. The speed was extremely fast. Demonic god Wu Yunhua clearly wanted to hurry up and finish the negotiations before the demigods of the Xia people arrived. Unfortunately, his struggles were all in vain. Sila, space was torn apart. A figure walked out. It was the eternal wind knight, Qiu Qi Bai. Snow Eagle. Qiu Qi Bai swept his gaze around and discovered the situation within the castle ruins. He even discovered some of the corpses of the demonized emissaries. With a single step, he arrived beside Dongbu Shui Ying. He looked at the demon Bai Shi's broken body, which had been suppressed by transcendent Qi. Undying body? Qiu Qi Bai laughed. Snow Eagle, I didn't expect that you would meet a demon with an undying body on your first try. This demon should be at least a rank 4 demon. Rank 4 demons usually have the combat power of someone ranked 10th to 30th on the saint rankings. They are hard to deal with even amongst peak saints. I didn't expect that you, Snow Eagle, could actually kill a demon of this level. He knew that Dongbu Shui Ying had grasped hold of the embryonic form of a grade 2 true meaning. In front of an expert ranked 10th to 30th on the saint rankings, it shouldn't be a problem for him to fight for his life. But to kill him would be much more difficult. I also estimate that he's a rank 4 demon. Dongbu Shui Ying nodded and laughed. He's very hard to deal with. His roar is enough to seriously injure most peak saints. The weaker ones might even be shaken to death. All right, leave him to me. A living demon has its uses too. Qiu Qibai laughed. If it were a demigod demon, humans would not dare to keep it in captivity, because the moment a demigod demon broke through to the demonic god realm, it would be a disaster. Of course, the possibility of that happening was extremely low. A demigod demon breaking through to the demonic god realm was much harder than a human breaking through. Although the probability was much lower, the Xia people still did not dare to take the risk. As for rank 4 and 5 demons, keeping them in captivity was a small matter. At the very most, they could just wait until he broke through to the demigod realm before killing him. I've already reported this to the Infernal Palace, Qiu Qibai said. Every time they fought with a demon, the situation would be reported to the Infernal Palace. Based on the situation of the battle, Transcendents could obtain rewards. 10,000 contribution points? Donghua Shuang laughed. He had already received a message from the Infernal Palace through his communication wristband. His contribution points had increased by 10,000. The rewards for hunting down demons are really high. A rank 5 demon is the highest. Even demigods are hunting down rank 5 demons. As for a demigod demon, all of them are extremely cunning. It's hard to find them. Qiu Qibai shook his head and sighed. At the same time, he took out a metal chain with a wave of his hand. With a shake of the metal chain, it flew towards the demon dubbed by Shi and tied him up. "Oh right, Brother Eternal Wind, there's something I haven't mentioned," Donghua Shuang said. "It's about a demonic god called Wu Yunhua." "Oh." Qiu Qibai listened by the side. Donghua Shuang briefly explained. These demonic gods from the abyss still dare to threaten the transcendence of the Xia people. Qiu Qibai snorted coldly and frowned. According to what you said, this demonic god main altar should have something very important to this demonic god. Congratulations. It seems like you've struck it big this time. Qiu Qibai laughed. With Donghua Shui Ying's current status, even the clan protection treasure of the Xia people was given to Donghua Shui Ying by the Infernal Palace to protect him. This was a treatment that even demigods did not have. No one would dare to snatch Donghua Shui Ying's spoils of war. Furthermore, Qiu Qibai was an extremely prideful person. He disdained to do such a thing. I feel that this demonic god, Wu Yunhua, might not give up. Brother Eternal Wind, please look after him from the side. Donghua Shuang said. Feel free to search for him. I'll watch from the side. Qiu Qibai said. Donghua Shuang nodded his head, following which he controlled the majestic heaven and earth energy and forcefully grabbed onto countless rocks. The binding force reached an extremely terrifying level. In an instant, countless rocks in the castle ruins flew up. Even some of the stone slabs and stone pillars that were still intact started to float up. The entire castle was dug 3 feet into the ground. All the items were floating high up in the air. Chapter 183. Donghua Shuang and Qi Qiubai stood in midair. The entire castle ruins was extremely heavy. If Donghua Shuang were to rely on his own strength to lift it, he would not be able to do so. But controlling the heaven and earth energy, Donghua Shuang was able to lift all the items easily. Big Brother Eternal Wind, I feel that the items in the castle ruins are very ordinary. Did you discover anything? Donghua Shuang observed carefully. He used the heaven and earth energy to inspect every single item that was bound. I didn't discover anything. Qi Qiubai shook his head doubtfully. South Donghua Shuang willed. Instantly, countless items flew to the side and landed on a large piece of barren land. Those broken stones, stone pillars, and stone slabs were all piled up together, forming a small hill. The remains of the corpses were also piled up together. There were also some papers, books, plates, and other items piled up together. Separate them? You made it much easier for the Dragon Mountain Manor to search. Qi Qiubai laughed. It's nothing much. I'll dig out all the secret rooms and alike. There's still formation tools under them. Donghua Shuang said. This time, he used the heaven and earth energy to dig even deeper. All the places that had traces of human activity were all dug out by Dongbua Shuang. The array that was used to deal with Dongbua Shui Ying was also dug out. Countless items flew up. Dongbua Shui Ying kept all the precious items. The rest of the items still flew up and landed on the barren land far away. That Wu Yinhui said that he was willing to give me 50,000 gene of origin stones. The value of this treasure should not be lower than that. Dongbua Shuang said, "We still haven't found it. It's hidden quite well. I'm afraid that there are some concealment arrays. I'm afraid that it will take some time to find it. I also think that there are concealment arrays." Chi Chiobai said, "There are many different kinds of arrays. Killing formation, bewildering formation, imprisonment formation, concealment formation. All sorts of functions were possible to prevent the world energy from detecting them. You're willing to use a formation to conceal it. TSK, it is indeed a valuable treasure." Qiu Qibai laughed. "Come, let's follow the old method. First, use brute force to sweep through." All right. With a single thought from Dongbua Shui Ying, the massive heaven and earth energy began to dig up all the soil and rocks in the surroundings. Nothing was spared. Countless soil and rocks flew up and piled up in another area of the wasteland in the distance. Immediately, the soil and rocks there quickly piled up. As the castle continued to sink, the mountain of dirt in the distance grew taller and taller. Moments later, the place where the majestic castle used to be was now a huge pit that was 300 meters deep. I've swept through the entire area, but I still haven't found it. Chi Chiobai smiled and said, "Furthermore, when we stared at it with our eyes, we didn't see anything special. It seems like it also distorted the light. The naked eye can see things by relying on light. If he could control light, he would be able to become invisible. Clearly, this formation also had a concealment effect. It's better for me to work harder and personally search through the area," Dongbua Shui Ying said as he charged downwards. So, Dongbua Shui Ying's speed soared. He flew around the 300 meters deep pit at high speed, using his body to touch anything. Using one's body to touch the formation was the simplest and hardest method to break through. What if it was a bewildering formation? The moment one got lost, they would immediately understand that they had fallen into a formation. For example, some concealment formations could prevent the naked eye from seeing them and the heaven and earth energy from sensing them. But when one's body collided, it was too difficult to prevent one's body from touching the formation. Pump. He transformed into a large number of afterimages as he flew. Finally, with a pung, he collided with a certain place. "It's here," Dongbua Shui Ying smiled. "And here I thought it would be very powerful. I thought that it would be able to distort space so that I wouldn't be able to sense it even if I flew past it." Colliding with it with his body, it was too difficult to prevent outsiders from touching the array formation. Bewildering formations could prevent others from touching it, but they would be able to sense it immediately. To not be able to touch it and not be able to sense it, one would need to completely conceal the space where the formation was located. This required perfect control of space and continuous control at that. Human demigods were unable to create such a formation. Just like in the Infernal Palace, with the help of the Infernal Palace, they were able to achieve such a feat, but a demonic god sending resources into the Xia people's world was already incomparably difficult. To send a deity equipment like the Infernal Palace, the price was too high. It was not worth it just for a little bit of faith. Only the ancestors of the Xia people, who were filled with boundless affection for the Xia people, were willing to pay such a huge price to send the deity equipment back to their homeland. Thus, the foundation of the Xia people, the powerful clan protection treasures, deity world weapons, and even deity equipment, many of them contained the feelings of the ancestors of the Xia people towards their homeland. Distorting space for a long time, even the demonic god guild would be reluctant to use such a formation. Qiu Qibai flew over and extended his hand to touch the formation. "Obstruct," Qiu Qibai sneered. His right hand was covered with a layer of transcendent qi. Beyond, that was the true meaning of space cleavage. He had cultivated for many years, so his true meaning of space cleavage was naturally more profound. He casually grabbed. His fingers were incomparably sharp. With a rip, he directly tore through the formation's obstruction. Actually, the formation's obstruction was not that strong. Dongbua Shui Ying could forcefully break through it. Hua! The formation was broken. A real scene appeared in front of him. In the area in front of him, there was a rather ugly and huge bath. The bath was only 10 meters wide and was completely black. At the edge of the bath was a huge statue of a demon's head. The eyes of the demon's head were red, and its mouth was wide open. An evil aura was faintly emitted from its mouth. The bath was completely fixed to the ground, or rather, it was fixed to the space of this world. There were countless tentacles around the bath, and these tentacles were connected to space. As the space of the Xia people's world fluctuated, the tentacles also rippled. At this moment, there were 25 humans hurriedly disconnecting the tentacles from the demon bath. Beside them, a black-robed, red-skinned, gray-horned demonic god, Wu Yunhua, was anxiously taking the initiative to disconnect the tentacles. But every tentacle was completely connected to the space of the world. It was constantly rippling, and the rippling power made it extremely difficult to disconnect. Damn it! Demonic god Wu Yunhua turned to look at the black-robed youth and the white-haired man who had charged in. Just you wait, Dongbua Shuang. Wu Yunhua growled. Who? His figure distorted and disappeared. He escaped really quickly. His spatial transference is really impressive. Qiu Qibai praised. Dongbua Shuang looked curiously at the huge demon bath in front of him. As for the 25 Star Knights, they had all been restrained and suppressed to the side. What is this? Dongbua Shuang was a little confused. He felt that the demon bath in front of him gave him an extremely evil feeling. This bath seems to be one with our Xia people's world. Its use of space is very strange. Qiu Qibai shook his head. I don't recognize what it is either. Although Qiu Qibai was a demigod, he had only cultivated for 300 years. He had just become a demigod not long ago. Clearly, he did not know much. Should we look for Vice Faction Head Chao? Qiu Qibai asked. All right, Dongbua Shuang agreed. Vice Faction Head Chao Qing was the oldest demigod of the Xia people. He would probably be able to recognize the origins of this thing. In another place, in the depths of a volcano, there was a strange warship hidden here. This warship was something that demon generals often rode on when they were out on expeditions. It was also able to isolate the senses of heaven and earth energy and other basic detection methods. Inside the warship, within a cold hall, a crystal ball floated in the air. On top of the crystal ball, an image appeared. It was the image of a black-robed youth stabbing out furiously with his spear. The Baishi is dead. He died at the hands of a transcendent of the Xia people called Dongbua Shuang. A demon wearing purple armor stood there. He didn't have any hair on his body, only scales. The beauty of his armor seemed to blend with the scales on his body. His eyes shone with golden light as he stared coldly at the image on top of the crystal ball. This was a rather skinny demon. He was about 1.6 meters tall, but the aura he emitted was filled with boundless blood. It caused the hearts of the 3 rank 5 demons who were respectfully serving him to tremble. When they were in the dark abyss, they were the subordinates of the general, serving a demonic god. They had fought everywhere, and the general's terrifying evilness had long since caused them to fear him. Pass down my orders, the skinny purple-armored demon said calmly. All demons under me, rank 5 and below, are not to fight Dongbua Shuang if they encounter him. Hide if you can. If you can't hide, flee with all your might. Yes. The 3 subordinates respectfully acknowledged the order. They were absolutely loyal to the general. Suddenly, the crystal ball rippled. A new image appeared on top. It was the demonic god, Wu Yunhua. Oh, if it isn't the demonic god Wu Yunhua? The skinny, purple-armored demon smiled. Chapter 184. General Yin Zhe. Demonic god Wu Yunhua spoke. He did not dare to underestimate this demigod-level abyssal at all. Even in the dark abyss, the demon god General Yin was loyal to was in a different layer of the abyss from him, and they were of completely different factions. Thus, in the dark abyss, General Yin was not afraid of demonic god Wu Yunhua at all, much less now that he was in the Xia people's world. In the Xia people's world, these demon generals stood at the peak of power. All the demigods of the Xia people had to rely on their deity weapons to kill them. Thus, Wu Yunhua had to be polite and did not dare to offend them. After all, this General Yin led a large group of demons that had almost completely infiltrated the 5 northern provinces. This time, his forces had been greatly weakened. If General Yin gave another order, then in the future, it would be even harder for Wu Yunhua to spread his faith. He might even be completely destroyed. General Yin being able to enter the material world is worth celebrating. Demonic god Wu Yunhua smiled. I won't be long-winded. I'm looking for General Yin because a treasure of mine has fallen into the hands of Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shuang? General Yin smiled. Your treasure has fallen into the hands of a human transcendent. Why are you looking for a demon like me? Right now, he has a demigod of the Xia people by his side. His name is Eternal Wind Knight Qiu Qi Bai. Demonic god Wu Yunhua said, I wonder if General Yin has the guts to take the treasure from them? With General Yin strength, killing Dongbua Shuang and suppressing Qiu Qi Bai is as easy as lifting a finger. Even a number 1 demigod of the Xia people, Mountain Lord He, is weaker than you. Thank you for your praise, demonic god. I really like what you said. If the Xia people's demigods did not have deity weapons, I alone could wipe out 10 of them. Unfortunately, their strongest demigods all wield deity weapons. I've seen Xia people's Mountain Lord He use his full strength. It is indeed very shocking. If I were to fight him one-on-one, I would not have any advantage. General Yin smiled. I can suppress Qiu Qi Bai, but I need time to kill him. Furthermore, the demigods of the Xia people will soon arrive with their divine weapons. General Yin had yet to exchange blows with the Xia people. However, he had secretly spied on the abilities of the demigods of the Xia people and had a clear judgment. If Lord Demonic God were to give me a divine artifact, I might be willing to take the risk. General Yin looked at demonic god Wu Yunhua. Haha, a divine artifact? In the dark abyss, I don't care about giving away a divine tool. But the world of the Xia people? I can't afford it. The entire Serene Shrine and Bloodshed Tavern only have 1 or 2 divine equipment each. The demonic god Wu Yunhua shook his head, sending a divine artifact to the mortal world. The price was too high. The Temple of the Earth God, the Bloodshed Tavern, and the demonic faction all had powerful backers behind them. But each of them only had 1 or 2 divine artifacts. This was because of the great existences behind them. For example, the Bloodshed Tavern. There were countless mortal worlds that had similar Bloodshed Tavern. Every mortal world would give them 1 or 2 deity items, and the accumulation of countless worlds would be terrifying. Thus, they needed to consider whether the investment was worth it. In other words, the ancestors of the Xia people. The ancestors of the Xia people might not be able to compare with the existences behind the Temple of the Earth God and the demonic faction. But they really didn't ask for anything in return. They were willing to sacrifice for their homeland. Generation after generation, the Xia people accumulated deity items. Only then were they able to accumulate a few powerful deity items. Then why are you looking for me? General Yin face turned cold. Why? Do you think I'll be stupid enough to help you without any benefits? No. You're not helping me. You're helping yourself. The demonic god Wu Yunhua said, From what I know, you demon generals have already discussed in secret and confirmed the territories that you each occupy. The 5 provinces in the north are your territories, General Yin. Yes, Yin nodded. The 5 provinces controlled by the Water Daoist faction were also the areas that the demon generals had discussed in secret and decided to be under Yin control. Large groups of demons listened to Yin orders. Of course, There were also 20 to 30% of the demons who no longer listened to orders after entering the mortal world. But most of these demons were killed by the Xia people in their madness. Only a few of them were smart enough to hide, but most of them still listened to orders. After all, only by relying on each other would they be able to survive in the Xia people's world. And one day, they would completely occupy this mortal world. Your main opponent is the Water Taoist faction. The demonic god Wu Yun has said, the Water Taoist faction currently has 3 demigods, Si Kong Yang, Chao Qing, and Xiu Qi Bai. Si Kong Yang and Chao Qing have both reached the peak of demigod a long time ago. It's hard for them to improve any further. But Xiu Qi Bai has just become a demigod and has grasped hold of a grade 3 true meaning. In a few hundred years, he will definitely surpass Mountain Lord He. When that time comes, he will be your greatest enemy. Actually, I feel that the biggest threat to you is this Dongbua Shuang. He's not even 60 years old yet. His cultivation time is too short. His current strength is probably enough for him to enter the top 10 of the saint rankings among the Xia people. The demonic god Wu Yun has said, his potential is even higher than Xiu Qi Bai's. Maybe in another 300 to 500 years, he will become the strongest existence among the Xia people. He will be your greatest enemy. If you die in the Xia people's world, you might die at his hands. Are you trying to sow discord? General Yin Zhe coldly asked. I'm not trying to sow discord. The demonic god Wu Yun has said, the time you spend in the Xia people's world is too short. You have too little understanding of the Xia people and Dongbua Shuang. Even if I don't tell you, if you wait a little longer, you will truly understand the transcendence of the Xia people's world. You will also understand how great the threat of Dongbua Shui Ying's potential is. Don't tell me you want to be destroyed after 1,000 years in the human world. With your ambition, you will definitely want to devour countless human souls and raise them in captivity, providing an endless supply of souls, and even break through to the demonic god level, right? General Yin Zhe coldly snorted, of course. Raising countless humans in captivity, allowing them to reproduce. Then he, General Yin Zhe, would carry out round after round of harvesting, devouring countless human souls. General Yin Zhe believed that his chances of becoming a demonic god would increase tenfold. I've said everything I need to say. The demonic god Wu Yunho's face suddenly darkened. Damn it, he had been secretly monitoring Dongbua Shuang and Xiu Qi Bai from afar. But now, the demigod of the Xia people, the old man Chao Qing, was there as well. As a demon general, leading an army in battle, you should be very clear how to deal with a potential threat that can destroy you. The demonic god, Wu Yunhua, smiled. With a whoosh, the image on the crystal ball disappeared. Clearly, the demonic god Wu Yunhua had cut off contact. In the cold hall of the battleship, General Yin Zhe's back was facing his subordinates, silently looking at the crystal ball. Dongbua Shuang? General Yin Zhe muttered. Previously, he only thought that with Dongbua Shui Ying's strength, demons below the 5th level could not be defeated. But he really did not realize the threat of Dongbua Shuang. After all, his attention was focused on the demigods of the Xia people. He had been studying every single demigod of the Xia people, thinking of ways to kill these demigods of the Xia people. Since demons had come to the mortal world, their purpose was to kill and conquer. They did not want to hide all the time. Pass down my orders. Find Dongbua Shuang, General Yin Zhe said. The original location of the castle was within a huge pit. Dongbua Shuang and Xiu Qi Bai were curiously observing the demonic bath in front of them, which was emitting an evil aura. The countless tentacles of the bath were connected to the space of the Xia people's world. They had not moved them yet. Whoosh! The space was torn apart. A thin old man wearing slippers stepped on the void as he leisurely walked over. He was grinning at the distant Shuang and Xiu Qi Bai. Seeing the young transcendents, old man Chao Qing was very happy. This was the continuation of the race. You two little fellows, What treasure did you find that you need me to identify? Old man Chao Qing smiled as he walked over. At the same time, his gaze landed on the demonic bath. The moment he saw it, his eyes widened. You found this thing? Who was so lucky? Chapter 185. It's Snow Eagle. He was lucky enough to discover a demonic god's main altar. He even took the opportunity to kill a rank 4 demon. Finally, he found his demonic bath. Chi Chiobai laughed. I'm envious of him. This isn't some kind of bath. Old man Chao Qing grinned. A few of his teeth had fallen out. It was obvious that as he neared the end of his lifespan, he was also getting older. However, one could not underestimate him because of his age. His transcendent Do Qi would not weaken because of his age. His cultivation level would only increase. Vai said, what exactly is this? Dongwu Shuiying was also very curious. Old man Chao Qing sat his but on the side of the bath. He even touched it. Did that demonic god send down a projection? Is he trying his best to protect this treasure? Yes. Actually, I didn't even notice that demon at the start. It was that demon who ambushed me. That demonic god also used benefits to tempt me. At the same time, he used all sorts of threats. Dongwu Shuiying said. Of course, he tried his best to protect it. Old man Chao Qing said. Without this thing, this demonic god, the difficulty of spreading his faith in our Xia people's world will soar by 100 or even 1,000 times. I'm afraid that within a few hundred years, his faith in our Xia people's world will shrink by more than 90%. Dongwu Shuiying and Chi Chiobai were both shocked. Could it be? Dongwu Shuiying and Chi Chiobai both had their guesses. Yes, it is the legendary Devil's Well. Old man Chao Qing said. This demonic god, Wu Yunhua, had his Devil's Well discovered by you. No wonder he went crazy. Chi Chiobai laughed. He was really unlucky. The altar you discovered just so happened to have this Devil's Well. Divine wells and Devil's Wells were extremely important to demonic gods. Most of the demonic gods that spread their faith in the Xia people did not manage to build their own Devil's Well. However, the moment they did, their power would continuously expand. Amongst the demonic gods that the Xia people spread their faith to, they would probably be ranked in the top 10. What exactly was a Devil's Well? More accurately, it was a passage. It allowed the gods to send their own divine power to the mortal world as little as possible. Normally, the wells created by the gods were called divine wells. As for the demonic god, he built the demonic well. Because they were separated by such a great distance, and there were countless spatial obstructions, it was extremely difficult to transmit divine power. Just by looking at the difficulty of descending a world projection, one could understand. And once the divine well was established, the loss of divine and fiend celestial powers would be greatly reduced. It was something the evil gods and fiend celestial could tolerate. Divine power and demonic god power had all kinds of wonders. For example, the demonic god power could easily demonize mortals. This was the origin of the so-called demonification emissary. At the same time, it could also strengthen one's body, greatly improve one's cultivation, and even allow one to quickly recover from serious injuries. In short, many of the fiend celestial's techniques needed to be executed through divine power and fiend celestial power. For example, pseudo-transcendent. The Terran Shrine had used the divine powers in the divine well to cleanse their bodies, allowing their bodies to become extraordinary. In short, with the divine well and demonic well, many miracles could be created. Only then could countless humans, even star rankers and legend rankers, be willing to submit to them. Furthermore, with the demonification emissary and other techniques, their own forces would be strong enough. Those fiend celestial forces without the divine well and demonic well could not be compared. The demonic well had to be refined by the demonic god himself. Old man Chao Qing shook his head and sighed. How pitiful. After refining it, he had to pay a price that was 10 to 100 times the price of the demonic well itself, before he could send it into the Xia people's world. This was the foundation of his faith. This time, you have destroyed his lifeblood. Just thinking about it makes him go crazy. These weaker fiend celestials are not like the Serene Shrine or the Bloodshed Tavern, who could spread their faith in countless worlds. It is already not bad for them to be able to establish a foundation in a mortal world. Chao Qing shook his head. Maybe after living for so many years, he only had a demonic well in a few mortal worlds. It might even be possible that this mortal world has a demonic well. Do you think it was easy for him to obtain faith? You destroyed it in an instant. Donghua Shuiying and Qiu Qibai laughed. Qiu Qibai hurriedly said, Vice Head Chao, let's not talk about this. Take a look, how much is it worth? How many contribution points can the Infernal Palace give? Why are you in such a hurry? Isn't this Donghua Shuiying's? Old man, Chao Qing stared. Snow Eagle is my good brother. I am happy for him. Can't I? Qiu Qibai retorted. Chao Qing glanced at Donghua Shuiying. Donghua Shuiying was filled with excitement and anticipation. Contribution points were good stuff. Cultivation required contribution points for all external resources. The higher one's strength, the more contribution points he would need in the future. This demonic well, compared to the few that our Xia people have obtained in the past, is considered average. Based on this, it should be worth 300,000 contribution points. Old man Chao Qing said, this toy is actually very precious to the demonic gods, but to us transcendents of the Xia clan, we can just dismantle it and use the rare materials. The contribution points given by the Infernal Palace are calculated according to the materials used. Understood. Donghua Shuiying nodded. This demonic well was refined by the demonic god Wu Yunhua into the mortal world. Only he could use it. As for the transcendents of the Xia people, they were not even deities. They could only dismantle the materials and use them. Even so, the Infernal Palace still gave 300,000 contribution points. 300,000 contribution points? Shuiying was startled. A horse would not get fat if it was not fed at night. His own combat power had risen rapidly, and he had only obtained 100,000 contribution points after passing through the 100 Battles Chamber. But this was the foundation of a demonic god for countless years, allowing him to obtain 300,000 contribution points in one go. This was very normal. The reward from the 100 Battles Chamber was a form of nurturing by the Xia people. It was purely a gift. As for giving the demonic well to the Xia people, it was a fair trade. Wait, the price I mentioned is not valid. I will get the Palace Lord Shun to come over. Old man Chao Qing said. The original body of the Palace Lord Shun would always be in charge of the Infernal Realm. The one who tore through space and rushed over was the Battle Chi clone of the Palace Lord Shun. He checked carefully and understood the situation. Then, he congratulated Donghua Shuiying and offered 300,000 contribution points. Actually, there were many examples of giving treasures to the Xia people in exchange for contribution points. Even the Palace Lord Shun could not casually give it away. The order of the Xia people could not be disrupted. Snow Eagle, Old man Chao Qing instructed before leaving. That demonic god's foundation was destroyed by you. He must be furious. Even though his strength is not worth mentioning, you still have to be careful. I understand. Donghua Shuiying nodded. His parents and family were all in the Snow Eagle territory. His brother had not gone to the Eternal Wind Academy yet. There was nothing to be afraid of. When his brother wanted to go to the Eternal Wind Academy, he would just personally escort him. Moreover, every time the demonic god's projection stayed in the mortal world, it would consume a large amount of divine power. He could not stay for too long. Within a day, demon god Wu Yunhua's world projection would definitely disappear. As for descending again, the projection was the limit of a mortal. There was not much meaning in descending. Moreover, the demonic god had to consider whether it was worth it. No gains at all. Paying the price? Not many demonic gods would be that stupid. Very quickly, a few star rank experts from the Dragon Mountain Manor rushed over. This was the demonic god's main altar. Even though it had been completely destroyed, they still had to check carefully. Chao Qing, Qiu Bai, and the rest also left. Let's go. seeing the people from a Dragon Mountain Manor starting to check the large amount of mortal items. There were actually a large amount of gold coins and even storage treasures. Clearly, both Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and Chi Chiu disdained to take those mortal items. After all, the Dongbua clan and the Eternal Wind clan were transcendent clans. They had a lot of treasures. Dongbua Shui Ying instantly soared into the sky. At the same time, he manipulated the power of heaven and earth within 100 li. With a loud explosion, the clouds within 100 li exploded. Countless shockwaves spread out in all directions. Demonic god Wu Yunhua, who had been secretly observing from afar, suddenly had a flash in his eyes. He could clearly see Dongbua Shui Ying in the distance. Suddenly, his expression changed. He could only see the shockwave in the region of 50 kilometers in midair. He could no longer see clearly. By the time the shockwave stopped, Wu Yunhua could no longer find Shuang. Chapter 186. Dongbua Shuang. The demonic god, Wu Yunhua muttered, his voice filled with killing intent. What did it mean to break through with force? At this moment, the demonic god Wu Yunhua felt sullen. Although he was much stronger than any Xia people in this mortal world in terms of the laws of profound mysteries, the will of the mortal world had suppressed his strength to the mortal limit. As for Dongbua Shuang, his strength was at the peak of the transcendent saint realm. The difference between the two was too big. He was like an ant flexing its muscles in front of a giant. Dongbua Shui Ying only needed to control the explosion of the power of heaven and earth within 100 miles to turn that area into a dangerous place for him. The demonic god Wu Yunhua's strength and the laws of profound mysteries did not dare to penetrate that area. Once it did, it would be easily torn apart and annihilated. I've been working in this Xia people's world for countless years. I worked so hard to send the devil's well here, but now it has all been destroyed by you. If we were in the dark abyss, I would definitely let you suffer 3,000 soul tortures. Just wait. I can't kill you, but that General Yinze will definitely kill you. He had lived in the dark abyss for too long and was very clear about the survival rules of the demons. Although he had only interacted with General Yinze a few times, he had long understood General Yinze's character. He was very sure that after General Yinze understood the terrifying potential of Dongbua Shuang, he would definitely not allow him to grow. Once he found an opportunity, he would immediately kill him. Who? The demonic god, Wu Yunhua moved his body and disappeared in midair. Azure River County, Snow Eagle Territory. In the wilderness below the mountain, the fragrance of flowers permeated the air. The demonic god Wu Yunhua with his black robe, dark red skin, and gray horns appeared in this wilderness. At the same time, he raised his head and looked at the mountains in the distance. He stared at the most conspicuous and tallest mountain, Snowrock Mountain. At the peak of Snowrock Mountain, there was an ordinary-looking castle. There was even some snow on top of the castle. Dongbua Shuang, this is your home, Snowrock Castle? The demonic god Wu Yunhua smirked. I said before, you will regret it. I will destroy your castle first. Whoosh! He took a step. In an instant, he traversed dozens of miles and appeared above Snowrock Castle. What is this? Demonic god Wu Yunhua was shocked. He could feel a boundless energy filling up the space around him. The several kilometers around Snowrock Castle was like a terrifying nightmare. Once the boundless energy was unleashed, even a peak demigod would be trapped for a long time. However, demonic god Wu Yunhua was too weak to break free from this power. Black cloud fire. Suddenly, a red-robed figure walked out of the main building of Snowrock Castle. With a single step, he stepped into the air. A red-robed, black-haired youth. A fiery red light flickered on his skin. His eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. It was Dongbua Shui Ying's Qi clone. Dongbua Shuang, the demonic god Wu Yunhua, was completely fixed in midair by the boundless power. He could neither struggle nor escape. He also saw the red-robed youth below. How dare you come here? Dongbua Shui Ying was truly enraged. Previously, he had always been very relaxed when facing the demonic god Wu Yunhua. However, at this moment, his chest was filled with rage. Snorrock Castle. This was his own home. This was the place where his most important family members lived. For them, he would do anything. This damned Wu Yunhua. To think that he would be so persistent. Ha ha, ha ha. I didn't expect your Snorrock Castle to have such a terrifying formation. But it's useless. You disobeyed me and destroyed my hard work. You and your family, I will take revenge. Just you wait. My revenge will never stop. Demonic god Wu Yunhua laughed maniacally. Die. Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes flashed coldly. Boom. The heaven and earth energy in the sky formed two gigantic palms. Each of the palms spanned several kilometers. At this moment, the two gigantic palms suddenly slammed into each other. The center of the two palms was the demonic god Wu Yunhua. The demonic god Wu Yunhua still looked at Dongbua Shui Ying and laughed maniacally. Just you wait, just you wait. Bang! In the instant before the two palms collided, the demonic god Wu Yunhua's projection dissipated. His original body in the distant dark abyss had given up on maintaining this projection. Maintaining a projection consumed a large amount of energy. He had originally planned to give up on this projection after taking revenge on Snorrock Castle. Now that he had failed, he wouldn't be so stupid as to experience the feeling of being slapped. Rumble. The two palms collided in midair, creating a shockwave that spread out in all directions. Dongbua Shui Ying controlled the heaven and earth energy to block the shockwave. What's going on? This heavens, that's the guards on the outer walls of Snorrock Castle, as well as the servants walking within the castle, all saw the scene in the sky. They saw the ugly, black-robed demon in the sky. They also saw the two gigantic palms that spanned several kilometers collide, causing the black-robed demon to dissipate. This scene was too shocking. The two gigantic palms in the sky. Either one of them was larger than Snorrock Castle. How could the servants and guards not sigh in amazement when they saw this? They also saw the red-robed, black-haired youth standing in midair next to the main building of Snorrock Castle. They knew that this was the pride of Snorrock Castle, the legendary Dongbua Shui Ying. Without hesitation, they attributed the two gigantic palms to Dongbua Shui Ying. This was because there was only one transcendent in Snorrock Castle. If it wasn't Dongbua Shui Ying, who else could it be? Eldest young master is so powerful. As soon as that ugly, black-robed demon appeared, the eldest young master killed him in an instant. So powerful. I'm afraid that with a single slap from those gigantic palms, the entire castle would be razed to the ground. That's what a transcendent is. Even deities and demons have to retreat. The servants and guards were all whispering to each other. Dongbua Shui Ying, who was hovering in midair next to the main building of Snorrock Castle, found it hard to quell the anger in his heart. This Wu Yunhua is truly like a haunting ghost. Since that's the case, it seems that I need to develop the mortal forces of the Dongbua family. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself, this way, I can destroy all of the faith of the demonic god Wu Yunhua even faster. A mere demonic god dares to threaten me across so many dimensions? When Dongbua Shui Ying saw the demonic god Wu Yunhua appear in the air above Snorrock Castle, he couldn't suppress his anger any longer. If he was strong enough, he even wanted to charge into the dark abyss and kill that demonic god. However, he knew that he was still very weak. He only had the qualifications to look down on these deities and demonic gods in the mortal world. When he truly entered the dark abyss, he would only be a snack for the demonic god. Dongbua Shui Ying's expression suddenly changed. He suddenly turned his head and looked towards the north. This was only his battle aura clone. It only had a small portion of its soul, although it was at the same realm as his main body and had the same level of control over the heaven and earth powers. However, maintaining the heaven and earth powers for probing placed a burden on the soul. Although his main body felt a little tired, he could maintain it for long periods of time. However, the Battle Aura clone was unable to do so. This time, due to Wu Yunhua's attack, Donghua Shui Ying's avatar was able to control the heaven and earth powers. The heaven and earth powers he sensed could only cover an area of 50 kilometers. At that moment, he sensed beside a field in the north, an extremely terrifying and evil aura appeared. Donghua Shui Ying looked towards the north. Far below the mountain, beside an ordinary field, there was a thin and small fiend. The scales on his body were extremely beautiful, almost like a work of art. Although he was thin and small, the evil and terrifying aura seemed to envelop the entire world. At that moment, the thin fiend's golden eyes were staring at Donghua Shui Ying, who was atop Snorra Castle in the distance. They were dozens of kilometers apart. Donghua Shui Ying felt as though everything about him had been seen through. This feeling made him feel extremely uncomfortable. He instantly understood the huge difference in strength between them. The purple-armored thin fiend gave him a sense of threat that exceeded any other Xia people or demigod he had ever encountered. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.